Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by the one and only Batters Up, Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good? I played baseball when I was a kid.
That's right. We talked about it on Wii Sports. We're also joined by Sarah Pudzorski.
Hello.
Welcome, Sarah. How are you doing?
Good. I didn't play sports as a kid. I feel like that's kind of obvious, though.
What about, like, you seem, if I may, I don't know, like you probably did, like, what's it called? Gym
Volleyball.
flipping stuff? No, like, not ballet. What's the thing? Gymnastics.
No.
Really?
I took a lot of dance classes, but I can't touch my toes.
Okay. Well, you know, it fades with time. We're also joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hey, debut of my not in a closet anymore.
Yeah, what is this? Have you
well?
secretly been building a secret recording mansion over there?
Kind of. Yeah, we had this. We went crazy. Like, I put up
I'm
walls,
sorry to hear
and
that.
painted, and put up a drop ceiling and put down flooring. I have like a proper office now.
I thought
Interesting.
what we were seeing here was like morning Kyle. You know, like
Oh,
I
this
don't know
is
if y'all
different
ever
location.
have like recorded in a context where it's like so early that everything's different. Like yesterday when I streamed, like out of like respect for being early is how I had like no lights on except for my main Elgato light.
Right.
So I was just sitting in darkness with a key light on me. Like
It's kind of fun. Change the mood.
I can also, for the audio listeners who won't do it, but it's a standing desk, so I can
Oh, Kyle can
Whoa,
move
where
the
are you going?
camera.
Oh,
Goodbye. That's
check
when
it
he
out on
makes-
Okay.
YouTube.
That's when he makes such a bad joke that he can have the camera like just shift away from him just to try and get him out of frame, I think. That's funky, Kyle. Congratulations.
Oh, that Jana's
on,
doing it too.
fancy
Oh my
thing.
gosh.
What the hell? Everybody's... I guess I can manually do it. Anyways, this is a big episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. We're very glad you found us on YouTube. You can always subscribe to the audio version for free in your favorite podcast app. We'd appreciate it. Or if you listen to the audio version, check out the YouTube version, all that fun stuff. This is huge. This is the second E3 is upon us. It's happening in early September. I don't know what happened in video game publisher boardroom meetings across the globe over the last couple of weeks, but everyone just said, fire everything we've got. And so it's just been nothing but presentations, showcases, game reveals. We have enough in here to eat for an entire year of podcasting about games. So there is a lot to cover because we had the big Nintendo Direct with a ton of trailers, ton of reveals, all that fun stuff. We had Sony State of Play. They said, yeah, we'll do that on Tuesday as well. Try and stop us. Then TGS is ramping up. And so we got some Yakuza news because of that. There was Ubisoft Forward. Who can forget that? Let's see, it's the fall, so Ubisoft Falls Forward. That's how you remember that. So that's in September. So that was on Saturday, and then on last Friday, there was the Marvel Games presentation with even more games. Announcements outside of that. On Wednesday, there's the Microsoft ID at Xbox Showcase. We have not seen that yet by the time we're recording this, and so we apologize if we're not covering that news. It seems like Deathloop's coming to Xbox based on some early reports and all that stuff, so that's very exciting for more people to get to play that great game. So we're talking about all that stuff. Then we're going to be talking about Splatoon 3. Kelsey Lewin's going to join us later on in the podcast. The self-proclaimed greatest player in the world at Splatoon 3. So we'll see what insight she has for us there. A lot to cover. My God. Aaron Yu writes in over on Patreon and they say, hey, everybody, another Nintendo Direct has gone by with no Wind Waker announcement. Do you think it's ever coming to the Nintendo Switch?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
They'll come eventually.
This is the confusing take, is a lot of people were surprisingly down on that Nintendo Direct, but you look at the headlines, it's like, I think there's a lot going on in there. I think it was impressive, but I think expectations were high, and Sarah rolled out of bed at the crack of F just to see
just
this
for Wind Waker.
Yeah, just for Wind Waker, because Jeff Grubb, at least I didn't listen to the full episode, but the headlines were like, the headlines were like, hey, Jeff Grubb is reporting that absolutely we're getting that Metroid Prime remaster, absolutely we're getting that Wind Waker port to Switch. This Nintendo Direct is coming, it's going to be juicy, everybody. And then it turns out no Wind Waker reveal on Switch. So it seemed like that kind of tainted the industry to have a negative perspective on this Nintendo Direct, was my take on it, at least.
That's like when that game is how old now? It's
2003.
I love Wind Waker.
Really?
I want it on Switch, but like, why get disappointed about a 20-year-old game not coming to a new platform? Like,
I was disappointed,
weird.
but not because of Wind Waker specifically. I mean, obviously, that was that's an L every time, but also I've been taking that L for since the Switch came out. So it's like, okay, well, it would be weirder if you had it at this point. Same with the Metroid thing. Like, that's been so rumored. And then it ends up, and this is no, like, shade to Jeff Grubb specifically, because I think
he's spot
many
on.
people have talked about that, like, the Metroid stuff. It's like, how much of it is a rumor and how much of it is a wish list thing. So I think also a lot of, like, Switch rumors, and this is more from, like, fans than media, I would say, in terms of rumors, and then there's also that blurry line between like media and like random leak man 87 said that this would be here.
Wait, what did he say?
It's like a horrible name, please don't search that up, but it wasn't just that. I wanted something that was like crazy hot fire from this. Like, I wanted something to wow me, and while we did get the Breath of the Wild, well, not Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Tears of Kingdom? I don't know.
You were so close. You were so close to just proudly proclaiming the biggest reveal of the week.
Tears for Fears, which was a dumb joke that I made immediately, but now it's like, when I think of that game, I think Legend of Zelda Tears for Fears.
Okay,
that's not the name of the game.
Can we just pause it? Can we just pause it for a second? Janet, I want you to get back to your point. But Kyle, I think we should have like an official, more proud declaration of the big reveal for the name for the sequel to Breath of the Wild. So Kyle, do you just want to throw it out there as if it's art? Just have at it, please, sir. 1, 2, 3.
Hell yeah. They announced that the Breath of the Wild sequel is called Tears of the Kingdom. And I think that's a fantastic name, and I'm very excited.
It still sounds sarcastic. We'll work on it in take 2. But sorry, Janet.
What do you want from me? I'm very excited for Tears of the Kingdom.
You're continuing your point, Janet.
Tears of the Kingdom. Now, it sounds still sarcastic, but other than that, which is a big deal, but it's like, okay, you showed me another angle of a game we already knew about, and you gave me a date that's fairly far away.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't, I think for the volume of stuff they had, because they had 40 minutes, like, if this is like a 20-minute showcase, I think it would have hit a lot more impressively.
Yeah.
But given that it was 40, given that it was so samey with like a lot of the farming angle, farming.
Let me just cut you off right there. I understand it. There's little pockets. There's weird expectations. But like, this is a Nintendo Direct that was 40 minutes. Wham bam, tons of announcements. A new Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Engage, was revealed. Miyamoto got on stage, quote unquote stage, just the white room. Revealed Pikmin 4. Revealed that GoldenEye is coming to the Nintendo Switch with online multiplayer. There was a ton of other little games announced. New Bayonetta 3 trailer, remaster of Tales of Symphonia, and a new trailer for the new Legend of Zelda, and the name reveal. Like, that's solid B+ Nintendo Direct territory.
Yeah, but a B doesn't wow me.
Probably the best Nintendo Direct for me.
You guys are crazy.
Since Animal Crossing.
Or, well, I guess
since Animal Crossing.
Both can be true. Both can be true.
Wait, so Sarah, this was your jam?
This has literally been the best Nintendo Direct since the Animal Crossing New Horizons era.
Wow.
They said, you are going to eat good today, and I thought that I was just being blessed, and then I realized it's because it's been 10 to 20 years since all these games came out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And now it's like dawning on me, like my mortality is weighing. It's like my time.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Finally, you can be happy. Yeah, because like we've been serving so much 80s nostalgia for everybody for so long, and now it's like the new generation. If you have peak nostalgia for like 2002, 2003, get ready, everybody.
Yeah, it's coming for me.
And that's in the form of Tales of Symphonia. Was that your biggest surprise for that?
Tales of Symphonia and A Wonderful Life was a huge Harvest Moon game for a lot of people. So to see it being brought back and sort of like, because that was the game that if you wanted, it first came out and you had to play as a boy. And then you had to buy it again if you wanted to play as a girl, which I did. So we got the Pokemon, got to buy both copies. Mm-hmm. So that I'm really excited for. And then we got Ib.
Okay.
The 2012 RPG Maker horror game?
I thought this was really interesting. You're like, what, Ib? And I had no idea what this is. But what is Ib? Is it well known? Like, Janet, have you heard of Ib?
Ib is a cult classic horror game made in RPG Maker. So it's like Ib to the To the Moon, Witch's House, Corpse Party were all early RPG Maker games, all coming out of Japan. They're like pixel sprite top-down horror games. Yeah. And this was like my like Five Nights at Freddy's, like the era of RPG Maker in like from like 2010 to 2012. Right. So it's like this is like a deep cut. And I never thought I would see Ib again.
It's really weird, to see something that just gets such a big reaction from you. It's like, I have no idea what this is. That's how we know that the generations truly are moving on.
That's how I feel every time you get excited about something.
I'm happy. I'm happy for a slightly younger generation to finally be happy. Tales of Symphonia, a game that I played and loved back in the GameCube. It's cool to see that remaster coming. It didn't look I was expecting maybe a little more visually from
It
the
looked
remaster.
the same.
Right. And it's going to be
Maybe
running
with the UI update.
Yeah, so it'll be cool to play that game again. People are screaming for a deepest dive of all that and all that fun stuff.
I will say that this was the direct where I was, I mean, you kind of always know that the Switch visuals are lacking, but
yeah.
Like, oh my God, when the Tunic frame rate hit, I was like, is that framey? And everyone's like, yes. And then when that Sifu thing hit, I was like, yo, this machine is chugging a lug like around this thing.
I am
was
totally
floored.
with you. I think it also coincides with like loving the Steam Deck as much as I have recently, where it's like Switch, it's like, ooh, it's feeling longer and longer in the tooth. That said, we'll get to it later in the show. I think Splatoon 3 looks fantastic. And I think the trailer, at least for Tears of the Kingdom, looks so good that it's like, well, if you know how to push the buttons correctly from the developer insider perspective, they're nailing it.
Fire Emblem almost looked.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks like better. This looks like New Heart.
Yeah.
Like how good Fire Emblem looked, I thought.
Yeah. So, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Fire Emblem Engage is the name of this new thing coming January 2023, which surprisingly quick turnaround for this thing. But the main character has red and blue hair and then alternating red and blue eyes. Looks like Martha's coming back in a big bad way. Is anybody here a big Fire Emblem person? Okay, look, we apologize. Don't light us up, internet. Don't light us up. It seems cool.
Until Fire Emblem Red and Blue.
That's
we all
right.
Get into it.
Please check it out, everybody. But it's cool. It's always exciting to see a new Fire Emblem out there. And, the name Engage. Sarah, you were in localization. Do you think they're playing with that more because everybody just wants to marry their husbandus and waifus in this thing? So.
I don't know. Probably not.
Okay.
That would be coming out with like the wedding
that.
collection
Right.
for Fire Emblem Heroes.
Right. Let's see. Kyle, real quick, we should talk about Goldeneye coming back.
Yeah.
Very
exciting.
Yeah, what was your reaction to that
Sarah's
thing?
time is over.
I just want to talk to someone about Ib.
We've toured Ib. Everything there is to say about it.
I did think that looked cool. I didn't know what it
does.
was, Sarah, but I was excited when I saw it from like
Thank you, Janet.
a first time seeing it, but I had no idea of the backstory. So,
But yeah, to get back to the important things, Goldeneye.
Yeah.
and I cut his mic.
No, I mean, for me, my reaction was like, gee, finally. Like, this thing has been teased forever. Like, there have been so many attempts to bring back Goldeneye, and they've all been just, like, supremely disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, hugely disappointing. Like, Goldeneye on the original Xbox, Rogue Agent, was just, like, a terrible first-person shooter. The remake absolutely missed what people wanted from revisiting
And
Goldeneye.
that was the remake with Daniel Craig, right?
Yeah.
Which is
and,
such
like,
a
the first level
weird
was
piece
solid.
of Bond history. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just not what I wanted from Goldeneye at all. All I want is just the original Goldeneye, flaws and all, just like with a better frame rate on a modern console.
I wonder how it's going to run.
Well, the thing is like I think the Switch version is just going to be a direct port, right? Like not even like of the sort of the ROM, so to speak. It's just going to be available on the N64. Well, I guess it's not, right? Like I guess it'll be like a proper game with online play exclusively on Switch, which is very strange.
That is the weird
But
part.
it will be through that NSO kind of packaging, though.
I think so, yeah. But the more exciting announcement was Rare tweeting just as it went live that it's also coming to like Xbox.
And I love the idea that
But
if
not with
you
the online on Xbox.
But without online, which is a
what's
funny thing to
wild.
say, but I don't care about that. I don't want to play GoldenEye online. I just want to have nostalgia and replay the single player campaign. There was like a user made mod that came out recently that updated the controls and gave it like a 60 FPS frame rate. That it was just a mod that somebody made that you could download and play. And I played through the first level of that and I was like, I love this. This is all I want. I want this on a console. I want this as an official release. And it's coming and it's very exciting. And I'm sure revisiting that game will expose its many problems and it will feel very dated. But just purely from nostalgia, I probably played that game more than any other on my N64, with the exception of maybe Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I probably played more Perfect Dark, but I have so much love for it. And I get the angle of like, well, I get the frustration of like, I would like to play the 4K version of this with online multiplayer. It is a weird age that we're in that like the Nintendo version has better online capabilities, and I don't know.
Well, has them, period.
Right. Well, yeah. I know. It's just such a
better
weird
might
thing.
not be the qualifying.
What do you think it
No.
is? We're not businessmen over here, but like, do you think it's something about like, well, we get dibs on the online side of things and you can't do it because we originally had the game on our hardware? Like, I can't imagine it's out of laziness from Rare's point of view, who's actually doing this. And the cool thing is that if you have Rare replay, they're going to patch it in, which is, I think, a really cool idea. And then it's also going to be on Game Pass. So super excited to revisit GoldenEye. We'll have some multiplayer streams in the studio because Sarah and Janet, do you have any love for the good old GoldenEye?
Where would that come from?
From playing it and feeling joy in your cold, dead heart.
I played it for the first time when I was like 20 or 21, and I did not like it.
Totally
I know.
get it.
Why would you?
Totally get it.
Okay,
totally get it.
You know what? I'm going to say it. Thank you for saying that, because so many people are like, oh, well, instead of just being like, yeah, to be there. It's like, yeah, why would you? If you play that game in the modern era, it's not exciting.
No,
it is only exciting as a portkey to a time before you had to pay taxes.
Right.
And that's fine. Like, go off, y'all.
I mean, there's a historical relevance thing to bringing shooters to consoles and playing a good shooter with a controller for the first time and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think we did a bit once where we had a young esports player back when we were, early.
Did a bit.
I don't know. What else would you call it, Hanson? I mean, the joke was that we gave this Call of Duty, esports player Perfect Dark, and he just didn't even know what to do with it. And
it was, you can find it on MinnMax's YouTube channel. He was in the old MinnMax basement. It was like, all right, I'm going to go 1v1 against this pro Call of Duty player, but it was in Perfect Dark on the 64, and he kicked that little kid's ass. It was very satisfying. It's the only time I've been happy in my life. But yeah, I love GoldenEye, but also I like to keep things in perspective that, like, we all love GoldenEye, but deep down, we just really liked our friends in 4th grade. That's really what GoldenEye love means.
It's a weird, like, not me necessarily. Like, for me and my brother, it was about playing the single player campaign and all the different difficulties and trying to defeat them in a certain amount of time. Like, it was an interesting game in that, like, at least at the time, it was an early example of, like, all right, you're set in a 3D environment and you have things you have to do. You can do them in any order.
Right.
You can, like, go kill everybody and you might not be able to beat the level because you didn't complete all the objectives. Like, it was interesting to just be let loose in this area with a checklist. Like, that was a style of game that at that point I hadn't played.
Right.
So that was the exciting part of GoldenEye for me.
Yeah. Janet, what was your biggest thrill from the Nintendo Direct? What haven't we hit yet?
I think maybe Pikmin 4, because especially because it had that lead up of, like, okay, Miyamoto's here. And then it was such, like, I got, like, twisted and turned so many ways. At first I'm like, Miyamoto's here. Everyone shut up, right? Like, I love this man. And then he's like, we have a movie, and also the Universal Studio thing is dropping, which I do care about because I live in LA.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. But then, like, literally nothing else was said about it. You didn't show me no picture. Like, I was like, okay, this is literally just promoting it. Then he's like, by the way, Pikmin, but Bloom. And I'm like, man, did they really do this? Like, are they really going to talk? Is Miyamoto going to tell me about Pikmin Bloom right now? A game that's already out that I'm not playing but might download because I liked Miyamoto telling me to go outside and walk. But yeah, and then they showed 4 and it was like, okay, this thing exists. It's been one of the longest time coming things in the history of time.
It's bizarre because, Eurogamer had a story in 2015 where Miyamoto said, quote, "It's actually very close to completion." Talking about Pikmin 4. Pikmin teams are always working on the next one. Nintendo then confirmed the news to Eurogamer in a separate statement saying, "We can confirm that Pikmin 4 is in development, but that is all we can confirm at present." So the fact that they said in 2015, like, oh yeah, we're basically done. Who knows how many times it's been upended and rebooted and all that fun stuff. But okay, from the pitch for Pikmin 4, it's a very simple teaser. I was curious about the way that Miyamoto was framing it. Sarah, I don't know if you have more insight into this, but he said, oh, we're going for kind of a simpler game this time around thanks to the Switch. And the easy thing to understand is like, oh, look, the camera can go down closer to the Pikmin's perspective. Which is like, okay, I can understand that. But then he said something about like Dandori, which...
They said they had like a new strategy.
Yeah, but it was like some Japanese word.
But then it was just like a word in Japanese.
Right, okay, so you didn't have a great epiphany from that, knowing Japanese or anything? Okay.
No.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Especially just, I finished up Tinykin this last weekend and really loved the hell out of that. And so I'm in the mood for some more Pikmin. So yeah, 2023 is when Pikmin 4 is coming out.
Well, there's like where they showed that I can't remember the enemy's name, like sleeping against a fence, and there's like a clock on the fence, like that is leading people to theorize that's like maybe the timer is being dropped or
Oh
it's,
my
like,
god, that would make me
becoming-
so happy.
That would be
Interesting.
wild.
I mean, that's why Tinykin is. I mean, one of the reasons Tinykin's fantastic. I loved Tinykin. I also finished it recently. But one of the things about that game is it like takes Pikmin mechanics and just lets you explore, and it's lovely for that. I think the reason it's taken so long is because Miyamoto just finished Tinykin, and he's like, we got to do this.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, dude. Okay, star of the show for the Nintendo Direct, the big closer at the end of this frickin' thing.
Pokemon Stadium 2.
Pokemon Stadium. Oh, did you know that Sarah has
Various
never...
Daylife.
Hang on. If you bash the good name of Various Daylife on this podcast, Kyle.
I love that name. It's so... I can't believe we weren't talking about it more, honestly.
Yeah.
What a name.
Does anybody remember what Various Daylife is?
No,
It looked
I
like
just
a
remember
game
the
that
name.
you just did like dailies in.
Is it the
was
one
just
with
like
the
a city
100
thing that he would run back and forth on a horizontal city map, and you would like do quests?
Yes. Yeah, it kind of looked like, okay, is it kind of like a Fantasy Life type thing? But yeah, Various Daylife, it was shadow dropped. It's a new RPG from Square, from the producer of Octopath Traveler. And it's another reminder of Square, what are you doing? I think we had that as a segment on the podcast a while ago, just like trying to wrap our minds around Square. And this is another example of that. They've just been... I know it's stupid to say that Square has been pumping out RPGs, but I feel like over the last couple of years, it's just been like, gotta. Like, I like Square, and I cannot keep up with just even the names of these games that they've been pumping out, if I may. So the point is, Various Daylife out now on Steam and Switch, and you go about and do your daily activities, and it looks like a fine little RPG thing. But just, Kyle, if I may run through all these. So 2021 from Square Enix, we saw Voice of Cards, Dungeon Encounters, Neo: The World Ends With You, Bravely Default 2, ton of other stuff, but that's just kind of like that B to C tier, Square releases. Upcoming, we have...
you.
I'm sorry, I mean one of the greatest games from 2021, Bravely Default 2.
One of the A to C tier releases.
Once you start it, you can't stop it. It's so good. Upcoming from Square, we also have the Diofield Chronicle, Harvestella, Valkyrie Elysium, Tactics Ogre Reborn, Crisis Core, of course, Octopath Traveler 2, Star Ocean, The Divine Force, Forspoken. They have just been on a roll releasing these things, and now we can throw Various Daylife into the mix as well. I do want to check it out. Maybe we can talk about it on the podcast next week, but truly one of the greatest names of all time for a game. But Kyle, outside of that, should we get to the star of the show now for
Let's
where
do
they
it, man.
close this thing out?
Tears of the Kingdom.
Did you know this was a new Zelda trailer right when it started? Or did you think it was... Yeah. Okay. You didn't think it was like a Wind Waker thing or the port or anything like that?
No, I mean, Breath of the Wild, it has that sort of similar sort of... it's not tapestry, but like that kind of art that shows this, like, many soldiers on a battlefield. It just was very quickly Breath of the Wild for me.
Yeah. Okay. Walk us through it. Give us your full thoughts on the trailer. What struck you?
What struck me? I mean, it's the showing. I'm just going to call it a tapestry again, but that stuff is really interesting to me, just in terms of like, what is happening here? What is the history? Why, what do these images mean? Why are there 7 symbols around this creature? This kind of has like a little bit of a Majora's Mask look to it, with like air, like I don't know, spikes like underneath the eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah, you seem to think on Twitter, at least. You thought on Twitter once that it was hinting at like 7 dungeons, maybe. Is that just the easy thing? You see 7 icons in a Zelda game and the murals. Okay, that's probably what that means.
Yeah, I mean, Ocarina of Time had 7 dungeons, I think, or 7 is like, a recurring number in Zelda, and like I feel like one of the Breath of the Wild complaints where there weren't enough core dungeons,
right? So
that I could see them sort of adding to that. But that, yeah, and then like the gameplay, of course, is fascinating and interesting. As someone at GameSpot who is like did their sort of the Zelda breakdown, actually put the diving animations side by side with Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
And they're literally identical.
Oh, that's kind of
like
fun.
To the point where he's even turning his leg a little bit in the same way. Like, and that, not to dive too deep.
Oh, thank you, Kyle, for cutting yourself off before you dove too deep on that, because I don't think we can handle how you'd possibly do it. I think Kyle was going to say, and I don't want to dive too deep, but I will say lazy devs, recycled animations, Anuma, get your head out of your ass.
Oh, no.
Yada, yada, yada.
There's a relevance there.
Oh, Kyle, you were gone completely. Cool new setup you got. You said, I don't want to dive too deep, but what?
Oh, I was just saying I don't want to like get into the weeds of like breaking down the little minutia of the trailer and like, you know, what is that thing that he's carrying on his hip? Like, you know, he can collect something like what's that big giant tattoo on the landscape in the background?
That is weird. Yeah.
All that stuff is just like, I love that stuff. Well, and I get really excited about it. And like, it's like even getting this, like, I don't know, what is it, 30 seconds of like gameplay and a title is like enough to keep me going and excited for a long time. You're going
to keep breathing on planet Earth for this. Yeah. Like, you know, we saw what looked like just another example of the use of time and reversing time in this game of like that boulder going up. So that's just a weird idea of like, okay, so if something's falling, then I can just grab onto that and then reverse time, and that'll lead me up to where that boulder fell from. That is the part that has me most excited for this, is more of that kind of immersive sim physics playbox area. Because like, if what they've been hinting at is true, brother, and you can just reverse any object, like the playground that'll allow for is just going to be absolutely bananas. So I'm very curious to see how that all goes. And then it seems like one of the big reveals from the trailer that I don't know if it hit as maybe hard as maybe they were expecting, but it's like, oh, there's a flying mount, right? Is that how you took that thing at the end, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't know what to read from that. If it's like a platform that you can sort of land on as you're traversing between the upper and the lower areas.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's really cool. It's very Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, like which is like there's always these Ghibli things, especially in Breath of the Wild, like more so even than other Zelda games. But that one especially stands out. It's like, oh, that's Nausicaa's glider right there.
It's weird that like it doesn't have a lot of personality. You know, it's like you think if there's going to be a glider or like a flying mount in Breath of the Wild, you think it would have like a little bird's face on it and be like, good idea, Link, or say some standard Zelda crap, right?
Well, that's why I wonder if it's just like a platform that they're kind of all over the place.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Janet, what do you think about that trailer? Anything stand out for you?
Not necessarily, only because I don't have a deep enough understanding of the lore to like catch those in the weeds things.
Yeah.
But as soon as it hit, I was like, YouTube about to go crazy. Like the people on Reddit are like write that down.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, is a testament to how much lore there is and also how excited people are for piecing together things and dissecting things. So yeah, nothing other than like, you know, you see Link drop in and I'm like 100 links drop into Tears of the Kingdom.
Classic.
Tears
of the Kingdom.
No,
it's
you
like
you had it in the first half.
Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
It's not Breath of the Wild, though.
No, I'm saying it's the same structure naming wise, like of the. Just remember that it's same format.
Okay. I'm sad that the acronym isn't good, though. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's like
it's not Bot W. It's
we need that Bot W. It's a lot to try and wrap our minds around. The Totk?
TOTK?
Yeah.
TOTK.
It's you know, being a dork for this stuff, I was so excited. And like, we streamed our reactions if you want to check it out. But just that moment of like end of the trailer, Legend of Zelda on the screen, and then everybody's holding their breath for like, show that name, and they finally do, and you have to really digest this, like Tears of the Kingdom. And Sarah very quickly pointed out that like, oh, this is why they didn't want to show it in the UK, the Nintendo UK version of the Nintendo Direct, because it is odd. They said they weren't going to show it out of respect for the Queen, where it's like, okay, I guess, sure, we get that. I know a lot of British media is on hold and all this stuff, but like the fact that it's called Tears of the Kingdom, it's like, it is odd timing, right?
What are the odds?
Odds?
I've had these moments happen too in gaming when you want to release something and then something like this happens and it all just falls apart. But it's like, you really start kicking yourself. You're like, what is this universe working against me? Like,
yeah, and everybody was up in arms about like, oh, they said that the name was going to be a spoiler, and now we know the name, and it's not really a spoiler. And it's like, well, I was want to remind people.
I think Link's going to be battling his survivor guilt of sleeping for many years while the kingdom burned around him. I think he has a lot to answer for, honestly.
I think there could be something there. But yeah, like if you go back and find that quote of when they said it was a spoiler, that was like Bill Trennan over at Treehouse, not Treehouse, but I forget his exact title at Nintendo these days. But he was saying, just talking about it in general, like, well, you know, we haven't revealed the name. Typically, Zelda names can be spoilers. I don't think it was as big of a quote as people remember it as. People take it and think back on it like it was Enuma being like, if we dared whisper the name of this game, you'd know everything about it. Right, Kyle?
I mean, also its relevancy to the sort of theme of the game isn't going to be apparent until we're actually playing.
Yeah.
Like, there might even be a point where you're like, oh, Okay, I see what you're doing there.
Right. But it's coming out May 12th, 2023, which is honestly a little bit later than I thought. I thought it'd be like a March thing, just like Breath of the Wild. But
do you guys think that that's going to land perfectly? That the delays are done?
I think so.
God, I would hope so at this point. It's been enough time. I think we're ready to finally play this thing. I mean, this is a pretty wild gap now between these two.
But I do. Yeah, I feel pretty
gap?
confident.
Wow.
It's a kingdom of a
What was
gap.
that? What was that?
It's emotions. I'm feeling them. But yeah. Oh, we forgot to mention. Speaking of the weird coincidence for Tears of the Kingdom and the Queen and all that stuff, it is weird that with Goldeneye they said coming soon. And the reporting, again, from Jeff Grubb, because when he's right, he's right. He was saying that GoldenEye was in development, but they were holding it because of the war in Ukraine. And they didn't want the Russia-centric plot of GoldenEye to be out there. So maybe it's kind of in that same holding pattern as Advance Wars now, where we'll see how it goes. There we go. Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, hot damn. Anything from the Nintendo Direct we didn't hit that people are excited about?
The Pokemon games coming,
Yes.
the Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. Like, genuinely, I am excited about that. I thought, and again, like, I didn't hate this Direct. It wasn't an A for me, and I only really get excited for an A. Because
That's a bad way to live your life, Janet.
Well, because a lot of things are, like, fine. Like, you know,
Sure.
like, a lot of things hit that B level. Like, I want to see what's going to be the thing that we talk about for, like, the generation. And I don't think this was necessarily that, even though it had a lot of, like, a couple of highlights.
Yeah.
But when they were like, hey, we're talking about Nintendo Switch Online, I was like, please don't give me that whack stuff. Like, give me actual, you know what the hits are. Please play your hits. And I really think they did in this. Again, GoldenEye isn't a me game, but I acknowledge that is an iconic classic title. And I feel like they really brought out great games for it. You know, we got Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. The Mario Party thing is a little bit awkward in the era of Mario Party. I want to say Superstars, but that might not be right.
No one on Earth can tell you the name of the most recent Mario Party.
The remake,
It's
the
Mario
remake
Party
of the
Tears
games.
of the Kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. You could forget. Mario Party Tears for Fears. Yeah, but I'm really excited. Like, I genuinely still play Pokemon Stadium. I have my N64 set up on my main TV with the, God, now I'm blanking on the name of the company. Oh man, the company that makes those little adapters, Eon Gaming's like adapters where you can put in the HDMI cable, which I'll still use that. But to be able to play the ECAN's ring toss with the controller that isn't so stiff that the joystick, it's like, okay, do you want the bad controller or the really bad controller? Because they're like old used N64 controllers that I got from a random store, and the hardware is really worn down because someone didn't take care of them. Like, that's going to be revolutionary. And also, I never played Pokemon Stadium 2. So this is like it's a great mix for me of like stuff I played before and stuff I haven't. Also, shout out to the Mario Kart update as well. Especially with tour tracks. I think Mario Kart Tour, like, even though I'm not a big fan of the game. Like, it's not how I like to play Mario Kart. But when I did play that game briefly, I was like, man, some of these tracks are really beautiful. I'd love to have them in the main game. And the fact that they're pulling from that is exciting.
Yeah. So the N64 games, 2022, we're getting Mario Party 1, 2, and I believe 3. And then also they revealed that 1080 is coming, Escape X 64, Pilot Wings. I'm rooting for Smash Brothers. I think the original Smash Brothers with online play will be a really fun little cultural event. And I've been playing a lot of Smash Brothers because like we have an N64 hooked up as well. So I've been playing with my nephew a lot. And it's fun to play that little game. But the greatest thing in the world is, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. And Sarah has never played the mini games from the Pokemon Stadium games.
Oh my God, they're so good.
If I knew that it had been only like, I thought when I saw it in the background of the videos that you made me watch, I was like, what is that? I was like, that's not what I assumed Pokemon Stadium looked like.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, this is for
Kids Club. The song's a banger too. Yeah. It's so good.
It's like I'm there right now.
Oh my God.
So
Get
that'll be
ready
great.
to fall asleep with Drowsies versus Drowsy. The Drowsy v Drowsy rounds, when you eat that sushi as Licky Tongue.
Yep, the Lickitung one's
it's
the one that
fire
stands out.
all the way down. I am so excited.
All right, look forward to those streams. We'll do them at some point when that thing comes out. Then, everybody, on Tuesday, they also had the big State of Play, where they started out with the big reveal of Tekken 8, which I've never seen more particle effects in my life than in that Tekken 8 trailer.
Too much water.
Yeah, where they say that, hey, this is all in engine. The matches won't look exactly like that, but we're kind of giving you the overall feel. But it's continuing the storyline, which Harada always likes to brag about, is the longest running video game storyline, is the Tekken storyline, technically, which is a fun idea. So there's a weird moment in that fight where it's like a close-up of a muscle, like getting like twice as big. It's like a very Dragon Ball muscle moment, but sure, it is. If you haven't seen that trailer and you want to see more lightning than you've ever seen in your life and more rain and smoke and wind, it is just like, how can we make a next-gen fighting game? I don't know, how many particle effects can we throw into this thing? But that's the way they kicked it off, which is solid. Then, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't jump right to the granddaddy yet. Like, Kyle, did anything stand out for you in that state of play other than Tekken and maybe the ending trailer?
Gosh, I'm like thinking back on it now, and I was helping GameSpot cover it, and God of War was the only one that I was like excited about, but surely there's more other things in there that I'm just not remembering. Yeah, there's just a lot happened yesterday, man.
I know. No,
it wasn't that. If the Nintendo Direct was like not that fire, like I think State of Play was worse.
I think you're right. I think the trailer at the end maybe made up for a lot of that. But I think, Janet, we both seem very into that Pacific Drive game.
Yeah.
It seems cool.
Get in the car.
Get in the car. So they describe it as God Save Our Souls. They describe it in the official press release as a road-like, where it's a game where you're in the Pacific Northwest. And
Puns were a mistake.
And you're in an old station wagon, and it looks like you're kind of decking it out, kind of like the Ecto-1 in Ghostbusters, and you're just trying to drive through this nightmare forest. And it seems like a really talented team. Like the creative director was the environment artist at Sucker Punch, and like they ran through a lot of the talent in that press release. And it's like, oh, it seems like a team that has made plenty of games before, and the new studio is called Ironwood. But I like the idea of a rogue-style game where you're just in an old station wagon trying to drive through the Pacific Northwest as like the lightning from Tekken is hitting you in the forest and all this nonsense, but it seems cool. So Pacific Drive's the name of that thing. It's coming out in 2023. Let's see other stuff from the Like a Dragon Ishin.
This was a big deal apparently, which I don't know. Well, Sarah, you're playing through all the Yakuza games, so I don't know if you have insights on this, but I have one of my like community members and friends took us talk, aka Joe, or the reverse, right? When the second this came on, was like, oh my God, is this Ishin?
Really?
And was losing their mind. Yeah, because it's it's like a Yakuza spinoff that never made it to the States. So, and it's also like, because it's remade, right? Yeah, like obviously because it's old, so it would have to be remade.
Although this is the downside, and this is what I've always been screaming about with PlayStation getting mushy with that rebuilt from the ground up thing, because they opened this saying this game is rebuilt from the ground up, and I was like, well, this is Sony saying it. But then you've seen it, it's like, okay, no, this actually is. Like, this is actually the Yakuza team.
You know what? I want to have a nice day today. I'm not going to argue with you about rebuilt from the ground up today. Maybe next episode. But yeah, it looks amazing, and Yakuza is such a great franchise that like I'm down for this. I just I wasn't as initially hyped in the sense that like I didn't have that background knowledge that other people may have had of, oh my God, this is something that we never got, that's really cool, that's coming this way, and all of those details. But like once that was kind of mentioned, that's definitely one of my highlights as well from the showcase.
Yeah, it's an odd one, right? Where they announced it and it's like, okay, this is taking place in the 1800s in Japan. It's the Yakuza game. And this one never came to the West. And it's confusing because there's also another Yakuza game that I don't know if this one came to the West, but it's 2008.
Is it the zombie one?
No. There's another like old Japan Yakuza game that didn't come out here. I don't think it came out here, but it's set 200 years before. So this is like the second of the old Japan Yakuza games that's finally coming.
I just can't believe I have another Yakuza game now between me and Yakuza 7. I have literally played 6 Yakuza games.
It is ridiculously
Which I feel
awesome.
like is the most games I've played out of like a single story series.
Yeah.
You know, like not including Zelda. I am literally at my wit's end.
Who's making you do this, Sarah?
Me. For some reason, I was like, you know what would be fun? I played Yakuza 0, which is like still my favorite Yakuza game. And I was like, you know what would be fun? If I just played all of them before I played 7.
Everyone has that idea, but I love that you committed to it. But I'm curious, hang on, are you going to play like a Dragon Ishin then before 7? Are you squeezing these in?
Well, this game, it looks like, you know, it's got like characters from past Yakuza games in it too.
Right.
So it seems more
it's
like
weird.
It's old Yakuza characters playing historical figures.
Oh, yeah. Weird. Okay. So what do y'all think about, there's been a shift. Have you felt it? Where it's no longer Yakuza. It seems like these are all being branded now. This is a deep cut. It's now being branded now as Like a Dragon. Like this is just called
I was
Like a
wondering what
Dragon.
you guys were talking
Ishin.
about. I was like, I know all these Like a Dragon games. What is this Yakuza nuts?
It's weird, right? It's like they just want to get away from the Yakuza name, so they're just leaning into Like a Dragon in a big way. So this is Like a Dragon Ishin that's coming out. And then very early on Wednesday morning, there was a big splash, a big Yakuza-focused stream to go with TGS, and there they announced not Yakuza 8, not Yakuza Like a Dragon 2. This is now the sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is called Like a Dragon 8. Sarah, how do you feel about this?
I mean, I don't know what's going on in Yakuza 7.
Right.
Or I don't know what's happening, but I've played, once again, 6 Yakuza games.
Yeah.
And for most of those games, you are not actually in the Yakuza.
Right.
You are like an outside force with relations to the Yakuza, dealing with the drama that occurs in the Yakuza while poor Kiryu is just trying to live his life in peace.
Right.
So I'm wondering if they just kind of want like a refresh on it, because it's not so much, it's heavily Yakuza focused, but it's not about being it's not like Yakuza Simulator,
Right. Yeah, I guess it kind of opens up more doors, and I don't know. It seems like with Yakuza Like a Dragon, they're trying to open it to a new audience, and so maybe this shifts out, but then it's confusing to call it Like a Dragon 8. And okay, we should figure out what we're talking about with Like a Dragon 8, because I understand that Janet, you're playing Like a Dragon right now, 7?
Yeah.
And then Sarah, you're going to be playing it in 2027 when you eventually get to it after finishing all the other games. Can we talk about the trailer for Like a Dragon 8, which doesn't necessarily spoil anything in 7? It's just...
Except for the fact that the main character is still alive, but that was kind of implied that they weren't going to die. But it's funny, it's like you ever watch a series you ever watch a series way late, and then the existence of other seasons is a spoiler for the season. It's like when you're watching Breaking Bad season 2, and it's like, will he or won't he? I'm like, well, obviously he's going to, because there's 6 more seasons of this show. Yeah.
Sarah, you seem the most sensitive maybe to spoilers. How are you feeling?
Well,
Can we
what
talk?
are you gonna? What?
Yeah,
I obviously haven't watched the trailer.
I guess we don't need to.
I watched the first one. They were walking in the street, and they said some cryptic lines. Yeah, and then I'm like, maybe that's too much. So, let me stop here. But
okay, chat's saying take off my headphones. So just
what are you gonna say here? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. The way Ben's being so cagey about it, I will just take off. You know what? I'm just gonna take off my headphones.
I'm going to talk about the trailer for Like a Dragon 8. Okay, Sarah's taking off her headphones. Janet, you're welcome to take off your headphones too if you really are scared. Okay, thank you. Oh, she's taking her headphones off. Okay, no, I'll have to scream really loud so they can still hear us. No, the big thing is Like a Dragon 8, Kyle. It looks like this is going to be the full buddy journey of Ichiban, the star of 7, and then Kiryu. They're finally joining forces here.
I thought the whole idea of Like a Dragon 7 was Ichiban's the new protagonist.
Right.
Let the old ways die. It's like, oh no. He's back. And he's got cool hair now.
Right. His hair is gray and very stylish. And there's a reason he has that hair. And the interesting thing with Ichiban is he has his
because he's old.
Yeah. But Ichiban's hair still has the fro, the ruined perm from Yakuza 7. Which is interesting though, because then there was that image that they leaked of the guy touring the development studio, and he shared that picture off the screen where Ichiban's hair was different. So I thought for 8 his hair was going to be different, but now his hair is still that style here. So maybe that's a development that happens later on. But the point is, Like a Dragon 8, I'm curious to see how those two work together in a big bad way. And the game's coming 2024, and it's still going to be on PS4 and Xbox One. Those series have always kind of been a little bit. Maybe just Japanese series in general, like Persona, right? They're more willing to go back to older generations. But in 2024, we'll still be playing an Xbox One game, everybody. But the interesting thing, too, is apparently Kiryu in Like a Dragon 8 will have his own party, which is cool. And then I'm very curious to see how it works. Chapter to chapter, if they're going to be bouncing back and forth or what. But then let's talk about it now. Well, just in case they're worried about these spoilers as well. They also announced Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. And so this game is starring Kiryu, and it takes place between 6 and 7 when he has the code name Joryu, apparently. And this one's more like the quote-unquote classic Yakuza experience, and that's coming in 2023.
But that's another thing. I mean, the Like a Dragon moniker that the sort of series is now adopting is weird because it's like, well, you're still showing action games. And I thought one of the fun things about the name Like a Dragon is it was like Dragon Quest. I thought that was the whole idea.
Oh, I don't think that's the whole idea. I think it's the translation of the studio name. Help me out, Chad. I might be wrong about that. But maybe that's a play they're working with because, Ichiban loves Dragon Quest. And I thought it was kind of a, worked many ways, but that was one of the ways. And now it's like, some of these games are not going to be turn-based RPGs, but they're still called Like a Dragon. But, right. I like that in the Like a Dragon 8 trailer that Ichiban comes out. Like, Kiryu's like, guess we don't have a choice. Then Ichiban just goes, it's hero time. It's like, I love that he's already in that Dragon Quest mindset. God, that game is so freaking good. Okay, come back. Headphones. And that's why Yakuza Like a Dragon is the best game ever made, everybody.
Also, I did some research, and Aaron T is right that Like a Dragon is just the name for the series in Japan. So they're probably just trying to streamline it.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
So it's kind of like a Biohazard situation.
Oh, that's a good comparison. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so there's a lot of other stuff. Rise of the Ronin, they showed at the PlayStation State of Play thing, which is interesting because it's Team Ninja.
Looks cool.
Yeah, the Team Ninja team, they're making a game set in ancient Japan. There's a wingsuit in it, so I know Kyle likes it. It's going to be like an action RPG.
Most anticipated.
That's right. Seems a little bit from inspired, but it's confusing because it's like, wait, Team Ninja is also making that game that Microsoft announced, which is taking place in medieval China, that Wolong Fallen Dynasty, that also kind of looks like it's taking some From Software inspirations. And it's the team that made Neo and all that stuff. So it's weird that Team Ninja is making an old Japan game and an old China game. But hey, why not? Okay. Star of this show, everybody.
Also, wait, that's 2024, by the way. Which is is this the first time on a big stage 2024 has been dropped as a release window?
Well, I mean, outside of Yakuza, we just mentioned something was coming 2024. Yeah, Like a Dragon 8 is coming 2024. But yeah, it's pretty rare.
Spoilers.
I'm always curious to see. Oh, damn it! But yeah, I'm curious to see how far out people will get with these. But yeah, it's certainly out there. Okay, they ended this press conference, the whole State of Play, with, hey, we have a God of War controller, which everybody said, sure, I think it looks kind of cool. It's like a purpley looking thing. I'm not one to really lose my mind over hardware like that.
It's definitely blue.
By that, I mean it's a blue looking thing and it looks great. But then they gave the old bait and switch and they said, not only do we have a controller, we also have a new trailer for God of War Ragnarok. And not only that, but it's going to be the best trailer that we've shown so far for this game. I think, at least personally, that trailer rocked my freaking world. Goosebumps. Floored me. Janet, you're playing God of War? Did you just wrap it up, or where are you at for your playthrough for Kind of Funny?
I'm at the beginning.
Okay.
I never finished it, actually. Like when I played it in 2018. Like I started it and I just never finished it. So now I'm going back with a fresh save to finish it.
Ooh, interesting.
The week, hopefully. We'll see.
All right. Well, we won't spoil anything from God of War if we're talking about God of War Ragnarok here.
It's hard to even spoil it because like I don't remember or know anything. So someone will be like, so and so God, whatever God,
Easy.
and then someone shot the sun, and I'm like, this doesn't mean anything to me. I'm gonna have to really pay attention to when I'm playing 2018 because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. So the big thing with this God of War Ragnarok trailer is, it seemed like they got the message that, hey, people were worried about enemy variety based on that 2018 game. It's one of the few things I think you can kind of knock it for. And so we're going to show as much enemy variety as possible, just rapid fire through all these different archetypes, monsters. It looks absolutely bananas. And then it's kind of the big outing of showing more of the Norse pantheon. Because, we've seen Tyr, we've seen Thor. Thor's performance in that old trailer was so unique that I was captivated. And then this freaking trailer has Odin opening the door to Kratos' little hut, and the performance of Odin in this game, I have not loved anything as much as that performance so far. Just this year, like that moment in the trailer, like, is this Odin's voice? That is such an awesome direction, and it's the actor Richard Schiff, who everybody apparently knows from West Wing, but I know him mainly as Eddie from Jurassic Park: The Lost World, the man who gets torn apart by two T-Rexes. But
yeah,
that's
a great scene.
It's very cool, but I don't know, how would you explain it? It's kind of like a subdued, slightly more higher pitch. Like it has, if I may, Frieza-esque tones of just like, it's not what you'd expect from a big bad, but it's so cool to have kind of this, I don't know, not gravelly, dark, deep voice.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that they kind of just go for that, not the voice you expect to come out of
Yes.
that character. It's like, yeah, I love it. You know, be weird with it.
Yeah,
Why not?
I know I shouldn't be annoyed by comments, but I was tweeting about how much I loved it and all this stuff, and there was this dumb person on Twitter where they're like,
Was somebody mean to you on the
they
internet?
weren't mean. I think they were just dumb. No offense
What's
to
their
this person.
name so I can block them?
Yeah, I'll let
Yeah.
you know. We'll blast this person. But they're like, the Odin's voice is bad. His voice should be intimidating. That voice isn't intimidating. Like, wait, why make him sound like every other God of War, quote unquote, villain? Like, I loved his tone in this, but then also like what he was saying in the trailer where he's talking to Kratos. And it seems like the big theme for God of War Ragnarok is everyone starting to grapple a little bit more with Kratos' past, and they call him like the imposter god. It's a lot more of like the Norse pantheon being like, what are you doing here, buddy? You are such a weirdo. Like Odin says, I'm not going to do the impersonation, but I just want to get this because this is what I think is so cool. Where Odin's talking to Kratos in this trailer and he says, what do you even know of godhood? In your lifetimes, has anybody ever worshipped you, ever prayed to you? Can you even imagine that kind of love? No, you don't care about anything beyond yourself, beyond the monster who kills without cause. It's like, oh, I love the idea of people just being like, you're not a god. Step off, dude. Kyle, were you as much love in this trailer, in the love as me?
I would use fewer words, probably.
Okay.
But yes. No, they're very excited. There's even a little bit of like a vulnerable Kratos in there, which I was like, oh, we don't see a lot of this. But yeah, no, I am so on board for that game. And there were a lot of like, which it doesn't usually, I usually look at writing as like a whole of like, is the writing overall good? And I don't really pull out like single lines often, being like, ooh, that's a good line. But this trailer had a lot of ones where I was like, ooh, that's a good line.
Where he says, death can have me when it earns me.
Yeah,
it's pretty
stuff
sweet.
like that. But yeah, and just, man, it looks great. I can't wait to play that game.
Yeah, this trailer has upped my excitement in a huge way for this game. And like they show, the best shot of the trailer is, I think it's Atreus, and he's with two wolves, Skoll and Hati, if you know your Scandinavian mythology, right? And then he like shoots the arrow at the eclipsed sun, and it like shifts over to night, where it's like, oh my gosh, like those are the wolves that chase the moon and the sun around the night sky, supposedly. And then when they stop, when they finally catch it, that's when Ragnarok begins. And so like that shot is just like, what a weird twist on this, but just visually unbelievable. There's a crazy space jellyfish that Jacob Geller in the reaction stream lost his mind for.
It looks really cool.
Oh my God, it looks cool.
Also, that sun thing was one of the first pieces of lore you can get in God of War 2018.
Oh, really?
Like that story about the wolves. Yeah, I was like, because I restarted it yesterday. And like, it's funny because when I played it in 2018, I very much, I guess, was following the main path for the opening.
Yeah.
So I started exploring and I was like, wow, I didn't see any of this part of the game because I guess I was just really bad at exploring this area. So like in that I didn't. And then when I, you open up the little like wardrobe kind of thing. And yeah, it was so funny to see that. To hear that right after seeing that trailer, where I'm like, okay, I was like, and then I don't even know what I'm planning to do here lore wise, but like I like recorded it. I'm like, I'm gonna like in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna go back and like watch all these and like really get to know.
Do it.
Really go in the weeds, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's a benefit of the game taking so long to develop, I think, is now we're even more nostalgic over God of War 2018, where now it feels like, oh, I remember that tree. Now Atreus is touching that tree, It's like if they just would have cranked it out 2 years later, it'd be like, yeah, sure, another God of War. But now it feels like this game from her childhood because it's been 4 years now.
I definitely think like just the trailer itself, I think is a reminder that like, yeah, this game is probably going to be a masterpiece, like another masterpiece. But obviously nothing's guaranteed, of course, but I would be surprised if this wasn't better than the 2018 one. Yeah. Critically. But on Metacritic, I think it's going to score like 2 points lower.
Yep, I think you're right. Probably something confusing. All right. State of play, a lot of good stuff in there. Then Ubisoft Forward was on Saturday. It was a rough show. It was about, if you think of the most humdrum version of a Ubisoft show where they're spending time talking about season 11 of The Division 2, and it's like, oof, okay, sure. So it was a little bit rough. They did announce officially that Assassin's Creed Infinity is coming, and then within that, there's going to be 2 games. One of them is codenamed Red, which is feudal Japan, and then also one that takes place during the Holy Roman Empire, which we all know exactly what years those are. There's no doubt about it. And that one's going to be, seems like about witches, which seems like a very cool angle. And they said it's like from the same It's Clint Hawking, who did Watch Dogs Legion, who had a very different approach to Watch Dogs naturally, and then also goes back to Splinter Cell. And they pitched it as like, this is going to be a very, very different type of Assassin's Creed game. So I'm really curious to see how it works structurally. But then also they announced Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is in the 800s in Baghdad. And that's going to be a standalone thing that comes out in between the end of Valhalla and then the launch of Infinity. And that was the most exciting thing there.
I'll play that. I'll try Mirage.
Yeah, it's interesting. Then there was the Disney Marvel games thing where they ran through a couple different games. Kyle, it seemed like both of us were intrigued by Illusion Island. Remember this thing?
Yes. Yeah, it has. The reason I was intrigued is because it looks a little bit like Rayman Legends using the modern animated version of Mickey Mouse.
Right.
Which is very good and very hilarious. If you go watch those shorts I'm sure they're on Disney Plus. They're very quick, but they're great. They're really genuinely funny. Yeah.
Now, is it
looks like
as funny as you saying that sentence to Sarah Pazorski? Because I think she laughed and winced at the same time when you said that.
You don't like them?
No,
Sarah?
I was trying to figure out which ones he was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, but so it's Illusion Island. It's from the same developer as Battletoads, like the most recent Battletoads, and it looks a little floaty. But the idea of having like a 4-player co-op thing that looks a little bit Rayman inspired for Mickey Mouse in that new Mickey Mouse art style, I also was very intrigued by that. So that's coming in 2023 overall. They showed more about Midnight Suns. They're remastering the old Gargoyles games. So you know what? That was my A Wonderful Life remake. Sarah, was when they announced the Gargoyles remaster is coming. I was like, yes, I am extremely on board for that. And then it seemed like the star of the show there was Niantic's making another game, Kyle. Marvel World of Heroes. They just won't stop.
I wrote the news story for GameSpot.
Oh, well, Kyle's gone again.
Yeah, the problem with that is in the press release, the pitch of the game is you're a superhero patrolling the streets of your neighborhood.
Okay.
I'm like, ugh, do not like that at all. But
it's going to be an interesting tone. I'm curious how they message that. And then the big thing, was the Amy Hennig game, the big creator of Uncharted, who's had a rough go in the game industry with games being canceled left and right, like Visceral, that Star Wars game and all that stuff. She is making a game, and it is a Marvel game, and they officially revealed that, no, it is not a Fantastic Four game, which was my greatest guess, and my greatest shame that I was way off on that. But this is a game that is a single-player game, but it's pairing up Captain America with Black Panther, and then also 2 other characters, like a soldier and a spy, and you're going to be jumping between those characters.
I mean, they just could have called it, the new Amy Hennig game, and I would have been as equally as excited. Like, it really doesn't matter what it's about or which characters they're going after. It could have been original characters. I just want a new Amy Hennig joint.
Yeah. It's weird they didn't name it. I wonder if they're still going through the process, so they want to save that splash for when they eventually drop that reveal and all that stuff. But yeah, it's an interesting premise. I'm curious to see how it all works out. In an interview with Mark Bernardin, who's a co-writer on this game, and Amy Hennig, they're talking about how it's like, Black Panther and Captain America, they're both symbols of their country. And so how those 2 interact with each other will be interesting. And this is technically T'Challa's grandfather, if you're into Marvel stuff. But it was a bad call, I think, to show the 4 of them at the end of the trailer, because I think everybody thought it was just going to be like a Suicide Squad style co-op thing, right, Janet? Did you feel that same way?
I didn't necessarily think co-op, but it's tough. It was one of those trailers too, where it invites more questions than answers, but the questions aren't as. I don't think it invited specific enough questions to be as intriguing as maybe it could have been.
Sure.
But yeah, I do think that when you have a lot of screen time for multiple characters, it does kind of have that implication of a swap out or what.
Yeah.
It's a little bit distracting, I think, from the idea of it being single player. I think anything more than 2 characters, people are like, what's going on here?
Fix it. Yeah.
Fix it.
Disney stuff. They also showed, of course, a little bit of Disney Dreamlight Valley, which is, Sarah, how would you describe Disney Dreamlight Valley?
It's Animal Crossing.
It's Animal Crossing?
With Disney characters and narrative, somewhat.
Yeah, you've been streaming this thing. I started it. It's made by Gameloft. It's interesting to see. It's quite a production. Disney put a lot of money into this thing. It's free to play. It's on absolutely everything on demand. Is it good, Sarah? What do you think?
I don't know if it's free to play yet. I know that
really?
it was
It's
out
in early
in,
access.
It's
early
not
access?
free to play yet.
Oh.
Yes, you have to buy it if you want
people
to play
who are
now.
playing now paid $30 to play it before other people
Unless you're playing
who
on
are
Game
not
Pass.
going to pay.
because
Okay.
Which is how I'm
the
playing
early
it.
access version is like it. So what's out is Disney Dreamlight Valley early access. To get that early access, you either need to pay or you need to. Well, actually, you need to pay. And like Game Pass basically paid for you. You know, like Xbox,
Right.
like we have
Okay.
Dreamlight Valley at home. You know.
Right. That's confusing. Okay, yeah, I was playing on the old Steam Press account. But yeah, Sarah, you've been streaming it, and I'm still trying to get a read on it. Like starting it's interesting. I'm a sucker for any game where it's like, here's an old farm, you get to go clean it up. There's a bunch of thorns, and you use magic to clean the thorns. And then, hey, you get a pickaxe, you can clear these rocks out of the way. So I'm intrigued, but how does it hold up after playing it for hours and hours and hours and hours?
I will say progression is kind of slow in the game. You have
Yeah.
to kind of build up currency. You have to build up points to unlock other areas. And you can go to like Disney realms. So, like I went to Ratatouille, and then I went to Frozen, and then you bring them back to your town. There's a lot of like grinding for materials in this game to do basically anything, which is like my pain point with it, is that it's like, okay, you need 20 pieces of sand to make glass. So go to the beach, bring Donald Duck with you because he's really good at digging holes. And then they just kind of follow you around. Like, you know, when you go to errands with your mom to like Target as a kid and you're just kind of stuck with her for the day, that you pick your favorite Disney character and they're going to run errands with you, essentially is how it works.
That's good game.
It's good. I am disgustingly addicted to it because I love doing my little tasks. Even though I think the game lacks charm despite being a Disney game. It lacks some kind of like, I don't feel connected to any of the Disney characters.
Is it the voice
They are very
acting?
like 2D, like literally and figuratively.
Well, even like Scrooge McDuck is in it. When I heard him talk, I was like, oh boy, that's a rough Scrooge. Maybe it's more in line with like a modern Scrooge that I haven't heard since the old DuckTales days and whatnot.
Yeah,
but.
so it lacks that like vibe Animal Crossing has where it feels like, you know, you like your villagers, you're attached to your villagers.
Yeah.
Instead I'm like, ooh, like, why is Elsa stuck in a rock and she cannot get out? So it's a little buggy, but I've been enjoying it. The vibe is a little weird. Like the overarching story is that Disney Dreamlight Valley is going through the forgetting, which essentially is you forgot about your Disney characters.
You forgot how much you love these IP. Oh my god.
Yeah, and then they disappeared from this like magical like village that you built for them. So what Disney is very much saying, like, hey, if you forget about us, your characters are gonna die and they're gonna wither away. And Mickey's actually going through a really hard time right now because Minnie's in the she's in limbo. Minnie's in purgatory. And poor Mickey is like, I really miss my wife. Can you please put these ears on and bake me her favorite crackers?
Are you serious?
So I can remember her? Like, I you not. Mickey is a broken man.
Wow. Please.
Yeah.
Wear this old dress of my wife. It smells like her, please.
That's literally what it is.
Oh my god.
But like, if you love, like
Memento,
doing a lot of little
the movie
tasks.
Memento.
Yeah. Then this is a good game to check out.
I would pay so
Don't
much
pay
to have
for it,
all
though.
those Disney characters with the all the writing on their body.
Oh god. Yeah, it has that diabolical opening too of just everybody's fantasy they're tapping into of like, oh, you get away from the hustle and bustle of the city and you go find a peaceful place in the woods where you lay down just to take a nap and rest and remember a time in your life when everything was simple and you were a child. It's just like feeding it into the internet generation's brain, and then to combine that
Disney literally has their hands around your throat and they're like, remember Wally? Don't you love Wally? And I'm like, I like Wally.
Are you gonna keep playing this?
I don't know. It's just like, it's a really good podcast game.
Ooh, okay,
because you're doing literally the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of quality of life changes that Animal Crossing needs to like pick up the pace on. The way that you can edit your town, the way that you have access to everything in your inventory, you don't have to have it in your bag, is amazing. Like if it's in a chest somewhere on your village, that you have it. You don't have to go and get it. You know,
nice.
like, so the quality of life changes are insane.
Yeah.
It's got a real-time day-night cycle, which I think was a mistake because there's very little things based on day-night cycles in terms of gameplay. I think they're just like, they copied Animal Crossing a little too hard there.
Right.
And I'm stuck playing in the dark now because I always play games at night.
So it's spooky.
And I
Disney
hate it.
stuff.
I'm so sick of real-time day-night cycles.
Really? It's a fun idea, or was it just a fun idea in 2001?
It was fun. It was a fun idea in 2001, and we all know everybody goes on their little Switch and like changes the day so they don't have to play at night. Like we all do it, but I can't do that on my PC. I'm afraid of what I would break.
Yeah.
If I tried to fiddle with the clock function.
Yep, it'd be a mess. All right. Hey. There's a lot we didn't get to. Please write in to the podcast over on Patreon and let us know what we didn't hit up, because there's so much that we could still unpack in future episodes. But we should probably talk about Splatoon. Do you all hear that? It's the sound of a guest coming in.
Hi.
Kelsey Lewin, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
I made a lot of noise coming.
Yeah, no, we like that. We like that. So the audio listeners know what's happening here. Kelsey Lewin, we were really talking you up earlier in the podcast as the world's greatest Splatoon player, number one Splatoon player in the world, and you will not be questioned.
I don't think I heard that part. Okay.
Okay, good. No,
I believe you.
I was tickled pink in the Monday meeting. We were talking about Splatoon. It's like, oh, have you been playing this, Kelsey? And you came out with more confidence than I've ever seen you have in your life. Where you said, yes, and I am truly fantastic at it.
No, I mean, look, now that the game's been out a few days.
Right.
Like, there are real, actual good Splatoon players out there, but I don't get a chance to be good at video games very often. This is one that comes fairly easily to me, and, like, that's not true of any shooter for me, so I'm just excited to be kind of good at something.
I love it. That's what Splatoon's all about. It's about exciting a different kind of fan base. Kyle, you've been playing this thing?
Yeah, mostly single player, but yes.
Okay, great. Janet, you've been playing this thing?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Religiously.
Yeah, I've been playing maybe the least amount, but yeah, a fair amount of single player, and then handful of matches. I think like level 4 or 5, somewhere around there. And Sarah, where are you at with the Splatoon franchise at this point in your life, do you think?
I am not going to play Splatoon 3. I am making the decision this time around to not pick it up, and I'm calling it self-care.
And what is the avenue? What's the thinking here?
I played Splatoon. I played Splatoon 2. It's always fun for like a month.
Yeah.
And
like
then
games.
the really good people show up. And I get incredibly toxic over this children's splatting game.
You played League of Legends, you played Rainbow Six, like you're saying this gets you?
And you should know that I am, based on the fact that I've played League of Legends, incredibly toxic in a competitive environment. And I am choosing to not engage with it this time.
Okay. All right. That's a fair choice. I mean, after this conversation, we might change your mind. Maybe we're just going to be having so much fun that you're going to be missing out playing your Disney Dreamlight Valley.
You're going to be like, I love the way that it's just like Splatoon 2.
Well, this is obviously the big debate, right? And I know that we did plenty of reaction streams for Splatoon 3 and all this stuff, and I think a lot of times we're like, okay, what's different from Splatoon 3? Splatoon 2, we got to really...
Is we the right word?
I guess the people that were on the reaction streams, maybe. Because, Janet, I know you played a ton of Splatoon 2. And even playing the Splatoon 3 now starting out, it is a lot of moments of like, okay, what exactly is new? I don't remember if how you launch into a game, if that's
new.
Okay, but like specifically like the kind of that overhead shot of like when you die, when you drop in, like that's Splatoon 3 specific?
So what's specific to the drop in is when you respawn, you just drop into the general area. There's not a specific point. Like there used to be a literal spawn point. It was like a little circle that you like appeared on. Now you like kind of pick your area, but it's still limited to like generally your kind of base side of your map.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been having a good time with it in the multiplayer matches. There is a part of me that feels like if we just culturally set a calendar and said we should all go back and play Splatoon 2 again, maybe we'd all be having the same moment of like, oh yeah, Splatoon rules. Splatoon is really fun. So I'm still soaking it in enough to try and figure out exactly how much better Splatoon 3 is. But Janet, as somebody who's played a lot of the series, where are you standing on Splatoon 3? What do you think of it so far?
I mean, I love it. I think it's amazing, and it fixes a lot of issues I had with Splatoon 2. That being said, like as much as I give you a hard time about it, I will admit that I don't think they iterate enough, at least in the launch of all of the versions. And this happened with Splatoon 2 as well to a degree, because I had forgotten that actually Clam Blitz was not at launch. It was an update. So I do expect there to be like some additional significant updates, and there is like the card game thing they added, and like which I haven't touched actually, and a couple other things. But to me, I've accepted that Splatoon is not a constant update kind of franchise, nor would I am I surprised because it's a Nintendo, and that it will be a installment thing. That being said, I think we can have it both ways. Like, I think they can continue to do Splatoon 1, 2, 3, 4 and iterate more and have a better general roadmap in terms of updates. Like, that's what I would like to see from Splatoon 3. That being said, I don't necessarily expect to see that. It'd be nice. But I'm also just loving a lot of the little changes. Like, they made it so much easier to play with friends.
Yeah, that seems like a huge thing, right?
And that's something that, like, I did all the time. Like, me and my brother would always play this game together. And in Splatoon 2, it was so hard because it's like, okay, well, you start the match. I am going to spam to join you. And when I join you, the worst thing about Splatoon 2 is, like, when I join you, I might be on your team, but I might not be. And I'm like, why did they do it this way?
Unforgivable.
And now you're pretty much always together. I have had some times where they have split us. I don't really know the logic there, or if the game broke, or if it's like I don't know what that is. But generally, it's easy. I can do the room code. I also love they carried over, like, data from Splatoon 2 to Splatoon 3 if you had that saved data. So there's a lot, honestly, to love about Splatoon 3 if you are a fan of the franchise.
And you've been playing with Kelsey?
Yeah, we played together like 2 days ago or something, which was really exciting. Kelsey, I don't know if you want to like talk about that, like how you like came into my game, because I wasn't sure it was you. Like, I thought it might be. Like, I was playing with Isaiah, my boyfriend, and we're like, Kelsey, and the username says Kelsey ! And he's like, is that Kelsey? Like, the Kelsey? And I'm like,
I'm the only one.
But I'm like, I have a lot of friends on Switch, because if you're a Nintendo person who's played online games, you know that you almost can never play unless you are friends. So I've given out my friend code to like everyone, like at one point. So I have like an insane amount of friends. And then when I tweeted, it was like a lost connection. I like tweeted out, I'm like, hey, if you're Kelsey, you're doing real good. And then you appeared on Twitter and you're like, that's me. And I was like, oh my God, like Kelsey's out here freaking carrying this team. So yeah, it was very exciting.
So the legend is true. She is the greatest?
I feel like Kelsey did really well.
Yeah, like you can catch me on the next professional Splatoon esports tournament.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'll check it out.
I will be the champion. Yeah.
Sweet. Kelsey with 2 exclamation points. Kelsey, what do you think about this game so far? How's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't interact with the game in a lot of the ways that have changed, because like I am mostly just playing the online matches in the same way I imagine. Like, I was never a big Call of Duty person, but I think a lot of people pick up the new Call of Duty every time, barely touch the campaign, and are just like, I want to play online with my friends who also picked up this game and watched. So like, that is probably 90% of what I'm doing is just like regular online matches, which really, like Janet said, haven't really changed that much since the last game. I mean, there's new weapons and some new abilities and stuff, and then there's the changes to the spawn points and obviously new maps, and like all of those are good and I like them, but yeah, they are probably not like a $60 new game on their own. But I mean, there are other things in this game that I'm just not interacting with. I mean, she mentioned the card game. I haven't looked at that at all yet either.
Oh, really?
I've opened a bunch of packs of the cards from like the general store, but have not interacted with it at all.
I went right for it. Yeah, table turf battle is that thing.
What is that? And where is that? Because I was trying to.
Yeah, that's a weird thing.
At launch, I was like, at the end of my stream, I'd been streaming for like 8 hours doing 8 different things, playing the game, watching the Disney thing. And towards the end, one of my like viewers / moderators, Eddie, was like, oh, check out the card game really quick. I was like, cool. And he was trying to walk me to there.
Yeah.
And I like barely, I think I found it at the end, but then something else went wrong. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do this. And I just didn't end up playing it.
You got to wander the back alleys a little bit to try and find it.
What I don't understand is why that's not on, because on the map, you can like go into some of the stores automatically. Everything that you can do in this game should be on that little like, just press the button instead of wandering around the map.
I got a lot of nitpicks. In this game. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe they just wanted to keep it clean or something. But yeah, I like it. I like the game. It feels like a 1v1 version of Blockus, if you know that tabletop game where you have like the Tetris pieces and you're trying to like place it around and stuff and try and control as much territory as possible. And so I like it. As far as I can tell, you can't play online with other people, which seems like hopefully something they'd patch in eventually. But also, I think the way that it does is after I just played it and then haven't picked up the game since because it peaked at Table Turf Battle. But I think it's like Triple Triad, where then after you play it, like you can go around and everybody in the world, like the NPCs, you can like play table turf
That's
battle
so
with them,
cute.
like compete with them in it. So I think it's a cool little addition in there. But yeah, you have to wander the mean streets of the new city to try and find it, which Kyle, I assume you're still fascinated by just the remnants of the Miiverse living on in Splatoon 3.
It's probably one of my top 3 like favorite things about that game is just seeing what people are drawing. It's like that was the thing me and my kid were doing, was just like walking around and looking at stuff and seeing what people are drawing. And like,
did you have to explain furries to your child?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to unpack the stuff that's on those cards.
Well, it's funny. The ones that I have to explain are like, okay, this is Heisenberg. It's from this TV show about this like drug dealer teacher. This is a show about the mafia. This is the star of The Sopranos.
I love it.
Like they're so funny. There's one that was just like a picture of an inkling and it just said "do crime" that we were both like cracking up over. I love that. The Miiverse was so great. And it's like, I'm glad it lives on in some form. I wish it just existed proper, but I'm glad that it still exists here in some way.
And it's just as confusing. Yeah, walking around, it's just like billboards, and it just says, retweet if you love Splatoon or kissing men on the mouth. It's like, okay, cool, thanks for doing. And then there's like, it's like a beautiful, not beautiful, I understand it's sad for a lot of folks, but it's such a specific time and a place thing, because like most of the billboards in the world of Splatoon 3 are just about the queen dying at this point.
So I love Splatoon 3.
They're mostly jokes.
It is, yeah. So it's like, it says queen is temporary, Splatoon is forever, and then another billboard just says the queen died so Splatoon could live. Or it's like,
I saw that one too. I feel like that must have got like a lot of upvotes or something, because I saw everyone saw that one. Yeah.
It's
my
a weird
favorite
deal.
was what do you mean the queen's dead? Shivers right here.
Yeah, that's cute.
That's good.
I forgot.
Good gaming.
It is good gaming. I forgot how much damn style Splatoon has, which I understand is stupid, but like second to Persona, I just feel like it has the best style and maybe most style, if you will, in games. Because like even just the way that the game starts off and it's just the inkling in the desert, which is like one of the first trailers we saw as you're like building out your character, and the music kicks in and just like this bass and drum track starts playing as the character gets on the train and stuff. It rules.
Which,
it's so unique.
Another, like, Nintendo can't not do Ghibli. Like, they have the Spirited Away train
Yeah.
theme
Right.
just like there. It's like, cool. I'm not against it or anything. It's just funny that it keeps coming up.
Yeah, Kyle, what do you think about the campaign? I know that's your main focus here.
I really like it. I like the structure of like the levels are kind of laid out in this like area that you kind of have to clear out, and it's fun to kind of walk around and explore and like throw your little, grenade to like clear out the fur or whatever. And if you walk into the fur, you turn into Captain Caveman, the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon, for a second, and then you kind of like die. And then the missions, like so far, like have been really varied and interesting and weird and even a little puzzly sometimes. Like they're definitely mixing it up a lot more, which I like. Like there was one where, like, my favorite thing where you have to jump over expanding circles.
That was my favorite thing too.
Yeah, like you just do that for a minute and there's just like 6 characters throwing out circles.
It was for like the old head platformer stands. Like they put that in there for us.
And there's one where you just gotta paint a giant Easter Island head statue, like this giant one. You have to like go up the levels, and the goal is to just paint the whole thing.
That's fun.
And it's like I like that being mixed in with like the more like, all right, go down this path and fight enemies and figure out how to progress. So like I mean, so far I've only cleared out that first island, so to speak. I mean, I think it outdoes the first 2 campaigns so far.
Same. I think a good margin, I feel like.
Even that Octo expansion.
I like a good Nintendo, single player campaign, and so I'm enjoying that part of it a lot.
Yeah, I beat 1 and 2. I didn't do the Octo expansion, but I beat 1 and 2's campaign, and I enjoyed it. I had a fine time with it. There's a part of me that feels like I'm always hoping for them to go all in and make what could be just a standalone single player Nintendo campaign with Splatoon. Like there's cool creative ideas in there for sure. But it's still that kind of test chamber like environment, right? Where it's like, okay, this little puzzle, this little puzzle.
Secondary to like the multiplayer is the core game,
right?
You know what I mean?
But
that doesn't mean it's not fun. Yeah.
It also serves like, I get that it is secondary, but it also serves as a companion to, I think, Turf Wars in such a smart, good way, where they teach you so many things about mechanics in the campaign. Like I feel like if you're open to playing the campaign and you feel like you suck at Splatoon, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, I'm bad at the game, whatever. Go play the campaign, because it teaches you so much about how to just move around through space and you utilize the area.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's up, Kyle?
Oh,
no, I was
bad.
just saying I'm one of those people who's bad at multiplayer but enjoys the campaign. In fact, I would love some tips from you guys before we're over, like weapon choices and stuff like that for sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Where are you going with, Kelsey? What's your go-to?
Yeah, what do you use?
I'm using I think it's called the Splatomatic, which is a pretty like just standard gun kind of thing. I used I think just like the Splattershot Junior for a lot of Splatoon 2, and it's a pretty similar gun, honestly. Like I just go with a gun.
I was hoping you'd use something weird and be like, here's the secret.
I can never get
you know?
good. No, I mean, I see people who are really good at those, and like those are the people I have trouble beating sometimes, you know, like a good bucket user is like is hardcore, and like I've never gotten good at them. That's what I appreciated about Salmon Run, is like that it sort of forces you to try a bunch of the weapons, and I got okay with like some of the weirder ones, but I never got as good with any of them as just like a gun.
Yeah. See, because I'm on board with the motion controls. Like, it feels like you really need this in this game if you want to play. I imagine everybody agrees. If you want to play some higher level multiplayers, just get used to the small adjustment of the motion controls and stuff. But still, I go with just the big splat roller. Of like, I just feel the best. It feels like the easiest just to run around. I feel like I'm helping the team the most that way. You know, the same way that like I'm not going to be on the front lines and Overwatch or something. Like, give me some support role. And I feel like having the roller is kind of the equivalent of the support role here. Janet, what about you? Where are you going?
So yeah, it's like the classic debate on like, how do you go about it? Do you use what you know, or do you try something new? I'm trying to do a little bit. I want to expand, but at the end of the day, I'm putting up that NZAP 85 and I'm just going in with that. That's mostly my main. I've had some success with the arrow spray, which was like a secondary main for me in 2. And honestly, the Splatana is pretty cool as well. I haven't really become a great player with the Splatana because it does require a bit of, I think, more movement and more of an offensive strategy than I usually like to take. But those are kind of the 3 that I'm swapping between. I'd like to get back into the roller. I was a roller main for 1, but I haven't been able to like move properly with it since. I just feel like I always go so slow. Even watching other people play with the roller who just started, I'm like, did I have the wrong shoes on or something? Like, I feel like I'm walking like at a glacier pace when I have that roller out. But yeah, that's what I'm using.
The big headline, one of them about Splatoon 3, Daniel Ahmed on Twitter, he says, Splatoon 3 sold more in 3 days than Animal Crossing New Horizons for Switch, the previous fastest-selling Switch game in Japan, and Pokemon Black and White, the previous fastest-selling game of all time in Japan. So it is the fastest-selling out-of-the-gate game of all time in Japan. That's the takeaway here.
It's wild.
That is bananas.
As it should be.
So this game is developed by Hisashi Nogami, who is also the producer of Animal Crossing. So I just want to say we should all be paying a lot more attention to Hisashi Nogami over at Nintendo.
And Nintendo should be paying them possibly a little bit more as well.
Probably, yeah.
Woof, that is wild.
But it's I mean, I like Splatoon a lot. I really enjoy it, but like that really surprised me. I never would have pegged Splatoon as being the one that just like is an explosion of popularity. You know, like Animal Crossing makes sense to me, Pokemon makes sense, but Splatoon, it's like, wow, cool. Yeah. Good for you.
I wonder if this is just like Japan's Call of Duty moment. You know what I mean? Like how Halo and Call of Duty kind of exploded over here, and like they are just finally really into shooters. I don't know if there's any actual merit to that, but
no, I think there's something. Yeah, somebody from the community wrote in, and I'm sorry I didn't include this, but yeah, they brought that up, just like how Japan's never embraced first-person shooters in a big way. So we know there's this untapped potential, and it seems like Splatoon is just the franchise to give people those feelings and emotions which are so popular everywhere else in the world, right? Sarah, you seem unimpressed by the sales of Splatoon. Based on our conversation in IKEA yesterday, you were like, oh,
well, I mean, like, I expected it to be popular. No. I expected it to be popular. This is what I expected based on like the build up to it. And everyone's hype level, it's meeting expectations.
Okay.
It's more popular than Pokemon, though. That's meeting expectations?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Have you seen the new Pokemon games?
Okay. Splatoon? You're on a podcast with Janet and Kelsey. You hold your tongue. Not even the Queen memes will turn you around on this thing, Sarah?
It's just a lot to pay for a game that I will not play after a month.
Yeah. All right. Well,
this is like you're gonna have though is gonna be the ride of your life.
But it's like if I want to play like a competitive game I can play, like I've played competitive games.
Right.
If you haven't played a lot of competitive games, this is probably like really scratching an itch for you.
That's right.
That's true.
Yeah. So like this is like, remember when everyone loved Pokemon Unite?
Right.
And then I never touched it after a month of playing it.
You're a snob. Just say you're a gaming snob. And we're all fake-ass gamers. We get it.
It's also...
Stop dragging me into this.
True competitor.
It's so funny to me because like it's because I'm primarily a single-player gamer. Like that's what I like to play. That's what I play. Like I don't know of any game that I play more than a month. Elden Ring. I freaking adored that game. I think I played it a month. I haven't touched it since then.
Right.
That's normal for me.
Even Mr. Mobile Editor, is not some mobile game you're going back? Ponyo or whatever the hell that thing's called.
I cover a lot of those live, continually updated games, but in terms of what I'm personally playing, I play through Point P. I had a great time. I move on. I play through Jetpack Joyride 2. Love it. Move on,
By the way, if you want a lot more Splatoon talk, you can check out the most recent episode of Anna's Internet Cafe, the show that Anna does on a monthly basis on her Twitch channel. She streamed it last night with the guest Taco. And then also that is on our YouTube channel now, so you can check that out. And then the podcast version of that full discussion, which is all about diving into the lore of Splatoon and like the real world influences on the lore of Splatoon. It's a good lore deep dive, so you can unlock the podcast version of that in the bonus podcast feed if you're a Patreon supporter as well. So check out Anna's show, everybody. Splatoon 3.
Wait.
Oh, yes, please.
Are we transitioning out of this?
I was trying to launch us out of it, but you got more to say, please.
I feel like we gotta go. Just like, how much time can you give me?
Let's see. Start the clock. You have 2 minutes.
Oh my God, it's so small. Okay, there's lockers that you can decorate with random garbage, and I love decorating them, and they're really physics-based, and that's cool. I just wanted to take a second to talk about how freaking fun this game is, because also it's taken over my house. Like, I bought it because I love Splatoon. I've been looking forward to this since they announced it. It was one of those things where, like, I saw the trailer drop, and I'm like, this is Splatoon 3. Like, I knew the second I saw it, I knew what game it was.
Yeah.
I bought it. Then my boyfriend bought it because he wanted to play with me and be nice, even though he doesn't like the franchise. He got into it now. Now he's playing it. My brother's like, I can't afford it right now. To be honest, I don't got the money for it like that. Then he's like, F it. I'm going to GameStop. I'm selling my games and I'm getting this game. He got the game for free because he traded in 2 games and got the game for free. He's playing it. Then his wife, who lives with us, was like, whoa, everyone's playing Splatoon. I wasn't invited. I'm like, I heard you didn't like the friend. And then she's like, I don't know where you're getting this from. She bought it. Yesterday we squatted up and we had the time of our lives playing multiplayer in our house, hanging out. And yeah, it's super fun. I can't say enough good things about this game. And I am currently, I think, level 14. It has consumed my life. All I want to do is play this. I am bummed I have to do anything else because literally every time I get free, it's a great break game too because the matches are only 3 minutes.
It is wild how fast it is. Yeah.
Kyle asked for tips. My big tip in this game is to don't get too caught up on killing people because that's a good way to lose. Check your map when you can to see like the area. And for me, it's about moving constantly. You should constantly be like laying down, swimming, turning around. Like you never want to just be shooting and not looking around because that's a good way for someone to see you from the side and then like sneak up on you. I guess don't be afraid to do a few stealth moments, like hiding in the ink can be very valuable. Make sure you cover areas that are usually uncovered or that people can't get to. And I think if you're getting your butt kicked really bad, what I like to do is try to flank around and go to their turf because a lot of times people that play highly offensive forget to cover their ground as much, and that's like a good way to win. But yeah, those are my quick tips.
They'll be like all lined up doing the killing, close to your base, and you can usually just, kind of swim around the entire line and cover some really good ground that way.
I really want to
good tips.
I want to play with y'all. I don't know if it's a stream or offline or something, but like I would like to take this game seriously at some point, and I feel like this is the window.
I have a lot of fun with it, and I'm like starting to get into too, like on TikTok or just anywhere on the internet, right? There's tips all the time, and like I think I'm really gonna look and try to see like some of the like additional layers of gameplay. Like there's a new way to like shoot up the wall with like you hold down B and you can kind of just like launch yourself, like stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, I love this game. I don't know how many hours I've played yet because the Switch won't tell me just as I started 5 days ago, but
you've been playing a lot of it.
Dumb how that works.
That's awesome.
I hate that so much. Like I really was like, oh, I want to see my count for the show. Still just played 5 days ago for a while. So we'll see, but
Also, if you like Splatoon multiplayer, you're looking for a good group to play with, we should shout out the Discord. I know that a lot of folks in the Discord have been getting together and playing this and having a blast. So if you're a Patreon supporter, you can jump in there and have a friendly community to join and find a group to actually play with.
Also, they have this squid plush in the game. Like this exact plush.
Oh, my locker has 3 of them in it. That exact color.
Yeah, I was like so excited. I was like, I can have the thing I have in real life digitally. And that's exciting because games are dumb. So there you go.
There's also fake Switch games in there, which I
really
appreciate.
You can get like chips. You can fill your soda, your locker with drinks. People are doing all these crazy aesthetic things or memes and freaking somebody, a community member from MinnMax, I forgot which user it was, has just like a mascot head sitting in there. Like
that's perfect.
It's a scene, man.
Did you know that the Splatoon 1 servers are still online?
What?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know. I'm not shocked, but I did not know that.
Okay, thank you for that thoughtful reaction. Yes, I was just curious about I want to see, part of me wants to jump into that scene to see if there's defenders. Because I remember the gamepad was so great to have on the Wii U. It seems like the game was designed for that naturally, It
was cool to see the map on the gamepad.
Yeah, the map at all times was amazing. You just tap on it for where you want to launch to. Anyway, Splatoon 3, we'll be talking about it more, I'm sure, and based on Janet's enthusiasm, probably talking about it a lot more at the end of the year. But Splatoon 3, everybody. Hey, Janet, you got a busy day, a lot of stuff ahead of you. You want to go ahead and, well, first we should thank you for your service on this podcast. Thank you for being here. And then you want to clap out when you're ready?
Sure.
Hey, Sarah, do you know how this whole thing operates, this whole Patreon thing?
Is it on Patreon?
Damn it, I gave it away. That's right, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. I've blown it.
Stumbled on that maybe.
I just learned it, actually. I found this cool site. It turns out we post the link everywhere, like in the comments or in the description. If you go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, you can find a bunch of great benefits. You can help support independent games media. If you enjoy the show, please help support the show directly. We appreciate it. And thank you to some of our biggest supporters, the wonderful I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about We Are OFK. You can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store and you can get the vinyl soundtrack to that game from the fictional band with great music, or you could also get the physical version of We Are OFK on PS5 and Switch. It comes with a 3D papercraft cat and a bunch of other fun stuff. And you can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store, and for this entire month, you can use the promo code LUNCHMEAT. LUNCHMEAT, one word, everybody, for 10% off everything under $100. And it really is, I think, the coolest online store on the internet. It's just, if you like games, check it out. You will be impressed by how hip and cool and awesome all these things are in the store. So LUNCHMEAT for 10% off, and help support them because they support us in a big way and they support the community in a big way because they ship out a prize each and every week. Whoever submits the best question over on Patreon, we will choose that person and say, this is truly the greatest question. And then that person this week will win Spinch, the vinyl soundtrack to Spinch, everybody. I Am 8-Bit will just ship that out of the kindness of their heart. All right. First question. Scott Gerald writes in and they say, have we hit the farming game singularity? Is this it?
No.
No,
Yes.
Sarah. There's more farming games to go.
I don't know how to explain this to people, but there are several different types of farming games.
Go on.
They are not all, just because you can plant a little crop does not make it a farming game.
Okay, what are the subgenres? Let's classify it.
There's you have your Stardew Valleys, which I prefer. I'm kind of a farming game purist, right? Where you have your farm, you do your little tasks, you get a wife, you're building a life. And then you have your rune factories, which are kind of more like you farm, but there's more of a dungeon crawler.
Your harvest.
I just got dungeons though.
Yeah, but this has bosses. You capture monsters. Stardew was we have a mine. Minecraft has mines with slimes in it, but it's not, So then you have you have your rune factories, which are more fantasy narrative based, more set in magic. You have to do more things off of your farm.
Yeah.
And then you have Harvestella is kind of going that direction, right? Where it's you farm, but have you also considered saving the world? And I'm no, I literally just want to farm. And then you have your multiplayer farming games, which looks as what Fae Farm is, where you're supposed to play with a group of people. It's centered around multiplayer farming.
Right.
And then you have Farming Simulator, which is so in the weeds. I don't know how to drive a tractor, so I can't play it.
I feel like you could get into Farming Simulator if you tried it at some point on a stream.
I've played it. I can't.
Really?
I don't know how to drive the tractors. I'm not a farmer.
All right.
Did you already write down New Show Plus, Hanson? You already took that now?
New Show Plus. Sarah gets into farming in real life.
Oh, that's not where I was going.
Yeah, because I don't know if you follow this, Kyle. If there's a video game option on the New Show Plus poll, it's just going to get annihilated
gonna
this
lose.
way. Like this week,
fair.
this week what won was just Sarah and I shopping at IKEA. And we had our phone hooked up to Wi-Fi and with Jeffem's voice blasting out of it as we're walking around at IKEA. And it was just Jeffem saying like, hey, thanks so much for the sub there, Paco Roco. And it's like, pretending like we're just talking to our friend on our phone as he's thanking people for subbing on Twitch. It was a weird vibe, but you can check it out on YouTube, I guess. At some point I do want to do a breakdown. I don't know, next week if we'll have time or how this is going to work. But I want to do a breakdown of upcoming farming games versus space games to see for like major-ish games, like what has the upper hand? Because farming it's climbing up there, and I got no problem with it. I love it. Like it's finding an audience. I just why, Kelsey? What do you think is happening? What's in the water? Is it just 2 years after Animal Crossing? But that seems like a pretty tight turnaround for some of these games.
Well, and also, I mean, Animal Crossing is, I don't know, like it's a symptom, not the like cause. It's not like everyone discovered Animal Crossing and then we're suddenly looking for similar-ish games. I think this is a subset of people who have kind of always existed and probably growing, but like, I don't know, it's the kind of stuff that has always been there to an extent and just doesn't get the big mainstream coverage. So like we think it's niche, but it's huge. Like Harvest Moon's always been really big. Stardew Valley, obviously, like one of the biggest games. But like going back further than that, even too. I mean, I feel like the PS2 and that sort of thing like had a bunch of these weird little things, and they just none of them ever really got like the big mainstream coverage. Because I don't know, how do you put Innocent Life on the cover of Game Informer magazine? But like. It's always been there. It's always had this audience, I think, and now they're just eating good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm not even being sarcastic. I think it's 100% Stardew Valley's, fault isn't the right word, but I think that's the line that you draw. That game has been such a huge success that people are now trying to capitalize on it. And that's why more of them are being made and more of them are being sort of highlighted.
I think you're right, but I mean, that was 2016. It's weird for
it takes a long time to make a video game, Hanson.
Yeah, not 6 years for some of these games. They looked at it in
2016 and sort of saw the little line going up and up and up and up, and then they started development on their own. Yeah,
I am curious about that Fae Farm, which we didn't talk about from the Nintendo Direct, but it's from the Phoenix Labs, who made Dauntless, like that Monster Hunter game. So it's a really talented online focused team, and I'm really curious to see how that thing turns out. To be fair, Sarah, let the record show Kelsey mentioned Game Informer before I did on this episode, which brings me to my next question from Woodman, asking, when can we expect the Andrew Reiner exit interview? Kyle, did you see that?
Yeah.
Andrew Reiner, after nearly 30 years, is leaving Game Informer, stepping down as editor-in-chief.
I know. It's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I think that's the right way to put it. Kelsey, what do you think of that?
Did he have the same year run as Andy Mack? Like, did they end up at the same, like, about 28 years? Because I think Andy started before Reiner, but not by a lot.
Much,
yeah, there's a chance that Reiner might have been at Game Informer longer than Andy, because Reiner started in, 93, I want to say?
And Game Informer is 91.
Yeah. So there's a chance.
It's been about 2 years since Andy left now, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do the math and figure out that it was like one day after he was there longer than Andy, then he bowed out.
Yeah, I genuinely hope it is one day past Andy Mack's tenure and was just like, nope, I want the record. I'm done.
Yep.
I think it was. I think Reiner told me. I think it was 330 issues. I think might have been the number. He knew the exact number, which was impressive. He counted it up.
I mean, the longevity of Reiner being the magazine, the most clear example of it that I saw was when Star Fox 2 released for the SNES Classic, right? Which was at 2017, 2018, I forget. Mm-hmm. And we were having a discussion, Kyle, you remember this maybe, but it was like just a morning meeting around the desk. And we're like, yeah, do we review Star Fox 2? That'd be kind of fun. And Reiner's like, yeah, I can do that. I reviewed the first one. It's like, what? Like, no other outlet can have that of someone being like, yeah, I remember reviewing that first game. I'll go ahead and tackle Star Fox 2 all these years later. It's just bananas.
It's crazy.
So you guys would know better than me. Is there anyone left in that entire company, not just journalists, who are even like early 2000s, or I mean, like, there's no one left from the 90s, I'm sure, unless it's like marketing staff.
Well, yeah,
something.
it's like, is Michelle still there, or when did Sarah start? Like, these are like people that were kind of behind the scenes, but I don't know if Michelle's still there.
When did Matt Miller start? Who's now taking over the editor-in-chief role?
Yeah,
congrats to Matt Miller.
Super exciting.
I mean, Miller he's an old timer as well.
I want to say he's like
date.
2003.
Yeah,
would be my guess, because him and Joe started around the same time, and so I Matt Miller is genuinely the sweetest human being I know, and so like
yes.
I think it's a, talking to some folks over there, they also have that vibe of like, you know what, Matt Miller is a really good leader at this point in time. It's tough out there. They have a very small team. Hopefully GameStop will beef that up. But to Woodman's question though. I talked to Reiner last week about doing an interview. I'd love to do it at some point, but schedules are really tough. I'm going to be traveling the back half of this week, and then he's flying out to have some time at his new mysterious job, which all he said is he's going to work for a developer and publisher, and he's going to be actually involved in making games, perhaps. So it's going to be an interesting transition for him, but best of luck.
I hope he's at EA with Andy. That's my just like stupid headcanon hope.
They can't quit you.
Oh, God. And Attack Corgi writes in and says, hello, MinnMax Masters of Mayhem. What is the panel's top reason to be or not to be a games journalist? The Ferraris probably are the reason not to be one. Yeah, Kyle, I don't know. You're still in the field in a bigger way than, I mean, you're at GameSpot now. It's crazy to think you're at Game Informer and GameSpot. You got a good vantage point on this whole thing.
So what was the core of the question again?
What's the top reason to be or not to be a games journalist?
I mean, not to be is the salary. It's not a job that pays particularly well.
Yeah.
The reason to be is like the opportunity to have sort of insight into the industry and really genuinely be a part of it and cover it and think about it a lot and analyze it and get to play games before critical reception has been cemented. I think.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's like one of my favorite things. I love being able to play a game before it's become this large, big. I love that big critical discussion too. But the chance to go in with very little knowledge of how the wider world feels about it is a fun experience that I really cherish and still enjoy.
Yeah, I don't think I've thought about it until right now, but it is like, yeah, it's just I really like games. I respect game developers. I want to be around game developers because I want to learn how they do that. But I also don't have enough talent to ever develop a game. So it's like, what's the avenue where I can still be in contact with that talented pool of people? Okay, I guess this is the way to go. Yeah, there we go. But in Attack Corgi, it seems tough, and it's tougher every day. So I don't know if I would strongly recommend it. And you know what? You can get a lot of the thrills for aspects of the job. Just start a gaming podcast with your friends, or just stream with your friends and have a good time. It's kind of the secret fun part. Michael Berry writes in and says, am I crazy, or is it impossible to talk to your pets in a normal voice? The more earnest the attempt to talk normal, the sillier my sentences devolve into. Are you able to speak to your pets in a normal voice? I only speak for myself, but I believe it to be truly impossible.
I'm a recent dog owner for the first time.
Congratulations.
And I do find that like I am bad at talking to the dog because I do not change my inflection very much to how I talk to everybody else. But the thing is,
like
hello,
a
dog.
person?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
hello,
thing you
dog.
have to
It's
do.
good to see you.
I'm like,
You
yes,
really enjoy that food, don't you?
Yeah,
Yum,
I'll
yum,
be
yum.
like, sit. Okay, good dog. You're a very good dog. Thank you for sitting. The thing you have to do is get excited because that's what they
Right.
read is the excitement. So like, I wouldn't be a good dog trainer because I am very much like, good dog. Here, you can have a treat now. You did a very good job sitting down when I asked you to.
Yeah, I remember.
Sounds
It's
like
like,
businessy. Like
I
you're
know,
having
right?
a business meeting with your dog.
How has your Q4 been, my love?
Yeah, I remember like we had a family friend who was always very funny, and I remember one of my favorite bits of his is he would like yell at his dog, but he'd be like, "Good dog, you're being a good dog right now," and then he'd like flip it in the opposite and be like, "Oh, you're such a bad, terrible doggy," and the dog would just react naturally, of course. Yeah, I don't know, Sarah. How do you talk to poggers? Talk to poggers right now, and we'll just listen. Like weirdos.
This feels like a very vulnerable
You
moment
made
for
me eat on camera and dissect the way I used a fork yesterday, so.
I'm always like, oh, piggies, oh, piggy poggies.
Piggy
and he's like,
poggies?
give me food. Ow! Stop hitting me.
He really seems to love it, the way you call him Piggy Poggers.
Piggy Puggies.
Kelsey, does it change based on the animal? Like, do you talk to your bird differently than the way you talk to like a cat or a dog?
No, I talk to both my bird and my dog completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mostly just like tell my bird that he's a bird or a small green chicken, or I don't like. It sounds ridiculous when you start explaining it, but I know every one of you does this.
Right,
like,
right.
You're talking to your animal, and you're like, "Oh my god, you're a bird! Did you know that you're a bird?"
And the bird's like, I'm a what?
Yeah, where do you stand on talking birds? Do you ever want
mine
one?
only says his name.
Wait, your bird can talk?
Most of them can do like some mimicry.
Hang on, shut up.
Wait, is this news to you that birds can like say
I knew
words?
that like a parrot could, or like if you slit a crow's tongue, but you're saying like most pet birds can talk? What?
Yeah, most can do like simple mimicry. Like, and he's a green cheek conure, which is like in the parrot family. It's just a very small parrot.
I had no idea. So is there potential that your bird can learn a new word?
Yeah, I mean, conures don't speak much. They end up learning like a couple of words. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it would be cool if he talked a bunch, but like, I chose this type of bird based on like their temperament and also like how loud they can get, and that they don't live like 90 years. Because a lot of the
Right.
really talky birds can live like 80 plus years. And I'm like, that becomes someone else's problem. And like, I'm not having kids, so I don't know. I don't know whose problem that's going to be.
I won't have to inherit it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think, don't let this get too dark. Kyle, you cut me off when I get too dark, but do you think there's a market for like,
Next question.
okay, Andrew Baker, no, do you think there's a market, hang on Kyle, I'm going to ignore your advice, for like genetically modified dogs and cats so that they only live like 2 years?
What?
So like they would just like, so they would
What a
just like,
terrible thing to...
so they would just like speed through
This
it.
is why Ben's not a pet owner.
No, I'm just wondering if there's people, I'm not speaking for myself, but I'm
Oh,
wondering if
after
people
2
out
years, I
there-
really feel like I want a different pet.
I bet there are people that are like, I want a dog, but like 18 years, that's a big commitment.
They don't
there's
live
a
that-
market for this for terrible people.
Okay,
What?
look, I'm not signing up. I'm not creating the market, Kelsey. I'm just asking the questions.
No, I
think-
don't think there's a market for that.
I agree. Sarah, why'd you even bring it up? Andrew Baker writes in and says, hey, MinnMaxers, I got 3 short but important questions that I've been dying to get your input on. Have you listened to Kojima's new podcast, Brain Structure? If you have, why is it so bad? And finally, has there ever been a piece of content that has made you question a creator? So I listened to the first episode of Kojima's podcast. It's a Spotify exclusive. It's called Brain Structure. Kyle, have you checked it out yet?
I haven't, embarrassingly. I was so excited about it, but I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet.
It's believe it or not, overproduced, if I may go so far.
Really?
Yeah, they have a translation for Kojima on top, and I love the idea of this. I'm going to listen to every episode. I'm on board. I love Kojima. I want to see how weird this gets. But the first episode, it's really weird because they have like an in-world podcast AI interviewing him. And so it's like, Mr. Kojima, we've been dying to know, how did you come up with the idea for Metal Gear? And he's like, well, actually, and it's funny because like clearly it's all written by his team or whatever, but he corrects the AI a lot. Like, actually, well, it didn't actually happen that way. It's like a weird thing of like, it's like he's acting like it's a real person. And so, you know,
Is its name like Mama or something?
I forget what the AI's name is. It totally has a name. And it may be obvious. I should know this as a Metal Gear fan, but you know, it was worth it just for like this little tidbit of like, oh, okay. Because the idea of Solid Snake, the name of Solid Snake, is like, well, I really wanted the name Snake because of Snake Plissken. Like I could have named him Python or anything like that, but I chose Snake. But snakes are so wimpy and quote unquote wiggly that I wanted to make it cooler. So I wanted a snake that wasn't wiggly. So that's why I named him Solid Snake.
Sometimes I feel like creators should just, especially like, you know, people who write books and you know how like you're in high school and it's like, but what do the blue curtains obviously mean the main character's sad?
Right,
and the writer's
right.
like, no, they're just blue. Sometimes I think creators should just let other people put knowledge into what they think the creator came up with and the creator should just be like, yep, absolutely.
Yep, you got it. Nailed
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I think you're right. Ben Shively writes in and asks, is there a single movie moment that is more triumphant than the end scene of Jaws? Smile, you son of a explosion. It's good. it's a pretty big buildup. You really want that shark to die by the end, and it's a good way to go out. I mean, trench run in Star Wars, like the combination of like Han Solo coming in and saying, "You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this joint and go home." Is that what he says? Blow this thing and go home. But that's satisfying, seeing the lasers go in. Independence Day, flying up into it. Hello, boys, I'm back. That's pretty satisfying.
The last bit of, end game, right? That's a pretty big build-up,
that is satisfying. That is true.
On your left.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments, everybody. Beefcake replied to this Patreon comment. They said, when I was a kid, that scene in Big Fat Liar where Paul Giamatti looks in the mirror and realizes his skin was dyed blue and his hair was dyed orange was peak cinema. And honestly, I'd probably rather watch that than Jaws. Yeah, that scene might be the most triumphant scene in cinema history. That's a good point. Rich Lynch writes in and says, hey, all, every year I watch an underwhelming Ubisoft presentation, and every year they come out with a confusing Just Dance promo. I have no idea what these games actually are or how they play. Have any of you tried them? How do they work?
Have we tried them?
Is 2022 a good year to try Just Dance for the first time? Please help me.
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
You'd have fun.
I've played, my family likes Just Dance a lot, so we play it at least once a year for like the new entries. And like the thing that I really get into now lately is like every entry, there's one song where it's clear that they like used whatever huge budget that game secretly has to like make an insane like music video.
For like the trailer.
There was that one like paper one? Yeah, like the stop animation one, the paper one where they layered like the paper.
There's one. What's the
budget
song?
is huge.
God, the song that opens Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Mr. Blue Sky?
Mr. Blue Sky, and it's like this stop animated bear dancing through a stop animated forest.
That
it's
sounds
like
fun.
a 3.5 minute stop animated Just Dance music video, and it looks fantastic. It looks great, and it's a fun song, and it's like, why, man, they are throwing a lot at just this like one weird thing, and it's not the first time they've done that. It's really strange.
Yeah, they're fun. I made the mistake of starting with kind of like the offshoots of them, whereas like Michael Jackson, The Experience. Remember, I borrowed that from Game Informer's vault. And Sarah, it does come with the Michael Jackson white glove, like in the case that you can put on.
Just feels kind of messed up.
It sucked. It sucked in ways beyond Michael Jackson as a person sucked.
I will say they're not really like it's not like, playing a traditional video game where it's like, oh, I really got to go for the high score. It's like the controls have to be really good. It's really just about holding a Switch controller and like dancing. I don't even really know how much it's perfectly tracking you.
And I always feel like I look really cool. Like you feel like you look like the person on the screen, but you absolutely are just flailing and you look ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's giving you a very big like grace, like you're meant to kind of do the things on the screen, but I feel like there's no way I'm actually looking like that, and I'm just kind of close enough. It's like if you've played like a karaoke game or even like the singing part of Rock Band where it's like, you've got your little like line going through that's calculating your pitch, and it's like you can be kind of off on that and it's still like yeah close enough.
Yeah, I remember like
just a fun time. It's just joyous. It's like it's fun to watch even just watching people, professional dancers, do fun choreography like with the camera just locked on them is actually kind of an entertaining thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that, Hanson, I have to leave.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, Kyle, thanks for being here. Do you want to clap out, dude?
I'm gonna do it like Janet does.
Okay.
That's basically
Rasputin. That's like the only reason I play Just Dance is for the Rasputin song. I know that dance like dun, 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 dun. But now I have to pay money for it because it's subscription based.
Wait, Just Dance is subscription based?
It's really gone downhill ever since they have like the new songs and some old songs the game is launched with. But if you want all the songs from all the games, you have to pay a subscription service, which to me is just a little ridiculous because they always put the good ones behind the subscription.
Ugh, yuck.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, they put the subscription songs in with the songs that you don't have to pay for. So you're like, oh, I want to play this. And they're like, ooh, that'll be $5. And I'm like, what?
Not fair.
Yeah, it's very Ubisoft.
Yeah, I remember visiting Ubisoft Montreal for the first time, like going for like a tour. And Ubisoft is known for throwing 3 million developers onto every game and all this stuff. And they're like, all right, this room over here, these are the Just Dance developers. And it was like 11 people in like this room off to the side. And it's like, it is one of the most efficient money makers throughout the history of the game industry, I feel like, just like that team. I'm sure it's ballooned up since then, but
it's got to be down to kind of a science at this point, right? Like, you're not fundamentally changing a ton of things. They probably have like their own custom tools that are just like, I don't know exactly, but like some kind of tool that's just like, okay, here's a new song, and like we just drag and drop some little dance things to it now. Okay, that's the dance.
Did you know that they made an ABBA game? Like Ubisoft made like an ABBA dancing game too? I kind of want to go check that out. Maybe for Extra Life or something, if you want to get nuked off at Twitch, that would work out okay. Let's see. Oh, also, speaking of music stuff, did you know that, I know every year I feel like people need to be reminded that Rock Band is still releasing DLC every week. Did you know this?
Every week?
Yeah, like this week, they're like, now in Rock Band, we have Nirvana's Man Who Sold the World. And it's like, what? It's wild that they're still adding new Nirvana music to Rock Band 4. Like, they've been doing it every week. You can go look at the Rock Band YouTube channel, and it's just every week has been a trailer showing off these new songs. It's ridiculous.
There must be like such a core community of Rock Band players. Would love to know what they're up to. Who just play Rock Band every day, every week, and it's the only game they play. I think they actually, they might be the happiest people on earth. So if you ever see anybody smiling on the street, they actually just played Rock Band recently. That's probably the only reason. Luca Alberti asks, they say, how do MinnMax? Fire Emblem Engage was announced in the latest Direct, and the reaction to it seems kind of mixed. The game looks more polished than Three Houses, but the art direction and character design aren't everyone's cup of tea. From the leaks, we know this game was probably completed a long time ago, so we might be in an ugly yet extremely polished kind of situation. I thought that game looked good. Am I nuts? Anyways, the main protagonist, someone said they look like a VTuber, and now I really can't unsee it. Like, they look like a VTuber.
I can see that.
And I guess their parent is a dragon, their mom is a dragon, which I don't know if I can keep doing.
That's been in other games. That's
Dragon Parentage.
Was that Conquest where you're a dragon or something like that? I don't remember. One of the Fire Emblem games, at the very least, your parent is a dragon.
Kelsey, before I finish Lucas' question, did you ever play Pokemon Conquest?
I did.
Okay, that weird Pokemon strategy game. But does anybody else on Earth remember that exists? I feel like that's one of those anomalies that really came in quickly, and a lot of people would not believe you if you told them that there was a Pokemon medieval strategy game.
It's kind of cool. It's like if you are not sure if that genre is for you. Like, I feel like it's a little bit simpler than like a lot of the Fire Emblems are, although the Fire Emblem has become a much more accessible game, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're just like, I don't know about these tactics games, I want to maybe try one, like, and I understand my Pokemon type matchups already, like, I think that's a pretty good entry point.
Yeah. So Luca asks, can you think of some bad looking games that play surprisingly well?
When you say play surprisingly well, do you mean that like the gameplay is really good, or that like they don't break?
No, I think the gameplay, would have to be what it is. It's just like surprisingly tight. Like the one I think of immediately is, I love the way it looks, because it looks just like the most raw version of a video game you could imagine, just like this weird, nasty, purified video game notion. But it's fair to say it looks like crap. But Robotron 2084. Like, it's just hideous in kind of a beautiful way, but I think that game still plays fantastically well. I think it's an amazing game to play this day and age. Sarah, do you know Robotron?
No.
Okay. At some point, you can come out to my lake place and we can play it on my main machine, and it'll be super fun, and you'll learn to love it, I promise. All right. Thanks, Luca, for writing in. Connor writes in and says, better quest goal here, everybody. I'm going to apply to 2 jobs a week over the next year. That's ambitious. My longtime roommate will be moving out next year, and I'm ready to make the most of this opportunity for some dope personal growth. Hell yeah. And if you're applying for 2 jobs a week over the next year, what if like you get that first job you apply to, though? How does that work, do you think?
Just have a new goal, I think.
Yeah, well, they say you should always be applying to jobs.
Oh, so take the job, but then just keep it rolling?
And then just keep applying.
There might be something to that. If you just like committed to years of your life to never stopping applying for jobs, like eventually you would just kind of work your way up society's ladder until you're president, I think.
I mean, would you though? Because if I saw someone hop jobs every like 3 weeks, I'd be like, well, I'm not hiring that person.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a fair point. Maybe you'd leave it. Here's a question I was just talking to somebody about. Those people during the pandemic who like secretly had 2 jobs, you know that conundrum, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm working remotely. Well, I'm going to pick up a second job and not tell anybody. How do you think they work that with like their LinkedIn or their resume? Do you think, what's the strategy there? You just leave one off, leave out the most.
You just pick one, I guess.
The one that looks better and just roll with it.
Yeah, at some point you're going to be quitting one of the 2 jobs, probably. And I think you just don't update your LinkedIn until you only have the one. And then it's like, surprise, I had this other job the whole time. What are you going to do about it? Fire me?
Psych. If you're still doing that, if you're one of those people, let us know in the comments, please. I'm very curious about your story. Blackjack says, Better Quest, let's go. The background to this Better Quest goal: after a year working in a mall in Northeast Philadelphia where one of my assistant managers got punched out by a random customer and several stores were robbed, I decided to be better prepared for emergency situations. I started training martial arts a few months ago for fitness and confidence, but now I want to take some actual classes in preparedness. So the goal is I'm taking a class offered by the American Red Cross to be first aid / CPR certified by the end of September. I recently transferred back to the suburbs of New Jersey where things are less scary, but it's a crazy world out there and it's better to be prepared. I like that, Blackjack. I thought this was going into like, so I'm buying a handgun territory, but I like that idea of like martial arts mastery, but then also first aid master.
I was a little worried, and then it went to the Red Cross, and I was like, oh, thank God.
It just got better and better.
I thought this was going into like a prepper situation where it's like, and I'm moving off the grid, selling all my assets, and living in a hole.
I thought they were just going to go full vigilante, which Seattle had one for a while. We had like a superhero, quote unquote, who's obviously didn't have like powers or anything that I know of, but like would actually dress up in a superhero costume with his girlfriend, I think, and like just go like find petty crime on the police radar and stop it. Like it was a weird situation, and then later he went to jail for something with drugs, and
believe it or not, Was it like Batman style drugs though? Like in that new one where he like takes the speed at the end or the adrenaline to pump himself up? I wonder if it's like he needs like cocaine to like fight crime or something.
I don't know, but the superhero's superhero name was Phoenix Jones, if you want to look him up.
That's good. It's the type of thing where it's like, oh, that's an interesting story. I don't know if it's commendable. And it's like, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's a very complicated, probably not good thing, but I don't know. There's worse things to do with your life, I guess.
I get that impulse, but also it's like there are organizations that are less like, hey, look at me, where you could probably help out your city in a more practical sense with a group of people. Anyways, we don't need to judge them too much. Anyways, Seth writes in and they ask, is Chuck E. Cheese a mouse or a rat?
I thought he was a mouse.
I thought he was a mouse too.
Seth says, turns out he was a rat from 1977 until 1993. And then they changed him to a mouse in 1993.
Why would you want to have PR? Why would you want to have a rat mascot at your pizza place? Yeah. I don't think rats had any good PR yet. Like, I feel like it's turning around a little bit now. People have pet rats. That's like a little bit more, I'm sure they did back then too, but it's a more like known thing.
Do you think it's the size is the reason we like mice? Well, some people like mice, or like mice are acceptable for like cartoon heroes and rats aren't.
I thought it was just like the Black Plague misinformation about the rats. Like rats tend to be bigger disease carriers.
That could be.
Than mice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're also bigger.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like if you took just the species of a rat and made it mouse size and then made a mouse the size of a rat, would that be flipped?
Wouldn't that then be a rat? And then wouldn't the rat be a mouse?
Well, there's more differences than just the sizes, I'd imagine, like on some sort of genetic thing, on some sort of kingdom tree phylum thing. I don't know. We need to move on. John Lee writes in and says, all right, cohorts and contributors and conspirators, time to go on the record. What game would you most like to do the deepest dive on? If you could do anything, Sarah, what would you pick, do you think?
Bratz Forever Diamonds.
Bratz Forever.
I'll do that with you.
Diamonds.
Thank you.
Honestly, have at it. The airwaves are yours, please. I think for me, and it seems weird that we haven't done it yet, but Metal Gear Solid 2, I think, is the one that I'd be most eager to jump into. But they've been teasing this re-release for so long, so I've just been waiting for that. So
I'd like to do one of my favorite games that is like a very just kind of obscure one, at least here in the West, is a game called Moon. It came out for the PS1 in Japan, and then came out here on Switch. Finally got localized like a couple years ago. It's a fascinating game. It is like the anti-RPG RPG. I guess I would consider it more of like an adventure game, but it is framed very much like it's supposed to be an RPG. Takes place in an RPG universe. It's a really, really interesting game, and I don't know. I think mostly I just want people to talk to about it. I don't know. It's the deepest dive. I just want.
We talked about doing it for the deepest dive when it was releasing on Switch, but I must not have connected you to it. Like, I don't know. Did I reach out and talk to you about this?
I don't remember. I feel like I have mentioned it on this podcast before, but I don't remember there ever being a deepest dive discussion about it. It might have just been like before I was on the podcast often.
Yeah, it was still like in that post Animal Crossing haze of we'd love to do more with Kelsey. Hopefully we can find a way. Yeah. But that's a good one for sure. What do y'all like for question of the week? Personally? Oh, were you saying something, Kelsey?
No, go ahead.
I like the Just Dance one. I mean, that generated maybe the most discussion out of any of these. And how often does somebody write in about Just Dance? I like the farming game Singularity.
I think I'm kind of leaning Just Dance too, because I don't know. It feels like a random year to be getting into Just Dance,
right?
And power to him.
All right, Sarah, can you condone this?
Yes.
Rich Lynch, congratulations. We're shipping out a prize from I'm 8-Bit, or they are specifically. So get ready for that vinyl soundtrack. Thanks to everybody for writing in. Thanks for all these wonderful questions. Again, if you want to submit a question for us to answer on the show, and maybe even answer it before the show, because we've been answering some early questions as well, if you're a Backstage Pass supporter. You can go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. We'd appreciate it. Now it's time for something that, of course, you can't forget is called Get a Load of This. Sorry for the visual layout, everybody. You'll understand. I didn't have the music chime. Anyway, it's not important. Let's see. Sarah, what do you got for Get a Load of This?
Oh, I just got this during the middle of the podcast. The Sims 4 is going to be free to play beginning October 18th.
Oh.
The base game of The Sims 4, not the expansion packs that you will still have to pay for.
That's diabolical. It makes sense. I mean, it's kind of a sign, I guess, that they aren't making a new Sims, though. Like, if they're willing to open that one up in such a big way.
I think they're just trying to make sure that they've got the money of everybody they could possibly get money from. Like, they're just trying to give you, like, a taste of what The Sims is. Because, honestly, The Sims 4 base game kind of sucks. It's not fun.
Oh, really?
It's not fun with expansions on it. It's very basic. It's very, you don't have a lot to do.
It's still.
Well, I can see a scenario where people are like, look, I could get into The Sims, but I got to pay for the game, and then I got to pay for the expansions. And if it's like, if it just becomes, let me just see what expansions I want to buy, then that's, I don't know. It's a little easier to swallow, I think. Yeah.
Hey, get a load of this. Let's see, who is this Twitter user? There's a link below for all this stuff, but Pierre-Loup Graffa tweeted out and says, as part of the Asia launch press event, we made the design lab into a showroom of development history. My favorite are the playable prototypes, bootable Steam Deck family tree units from mid-2019 to now. So it's my favorite thing where they're showing just the earliest versions of the Steam Deck and like how it evolved from 2019. And the fact that they all boot up is really cool. So, I always love this type of transparency, and especially from a company like Valve, just showing you like, here's some weird old versions of this thing where it looks even more like a Game Gear, I guess is the best way to describe it, where it's more like rounded and they have like the gross Steam controller circular thingies on there as well. So there's a link below if you want to see that picture. But Kelsey, did you have one?
Yeah, so get a load of this. Today is the 21st anniversary of the launch of the GameCube in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And there is on YouTube the entire press conference from E3 2001 where they're talking about a lot of the stuff coming to the GameCube later that year. And it is, I don't know, it is truly just, it's a very pure press conference. Like, people are just genuinely so excited about video games in this one in a way that, like, I feel like we've become a little jaded by now.
Yeah.
This is where they show off Melee, and the reaction from the audience in this. And this is like, E3 was much smaller at this point. This is like a small ballroom full of journalists, and like they are screaming and hooting and hollering, and it's
awesome.
kind of fun to go back and listen to. They're also really confused by ice climbers. They show off Ice Climbers as a playable character.
Yeah, because it's
"What?"
like, is this
you can hear
co-op?
people in the audience go, "What?"
Do you think it's based on like the fact that there's 2 or like on the IP of Ice Climbers?
Oh, I think it's the IP.
Yeah.
Like Ice Climbers, I think we have an inflated importance of Ice Climbers as a game because
Right.
they're in Smash Brothers.
Right.
That was like a nothing game. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it was like a game that people did not care about on the NES. Like,
I'm sure
it was
it-
not a super popular game.
I bet at some point, like in his Famitsu run or something, Sakurai has like talked about that. But I don't know if he was just a big fan or it was just like, what odd opportunities do I have from Nintendo's IP backlog? I guess that would be a weird one to have 2 characters.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
one.
I mean, it is an interesting character, and I wonder if that's why they were selected. But
Yeah.
it is totally like it is a very random old NES game. It'd be like having, I don't even know if the like Clue Land thing has a name, but like it'd be like having Clue Land as a as a character.
It's clear. By the way, how good is Sakurai's YouTube channel, Kelsey? Are you watching that stuff?
Not a lot yet,
Oh.
but like I have it queued up and
Okay.
it looks amazing.
Yeah, he doesn't monetize in any way, and they're all like 5 minutes or under or something. So it would be fun just to have an evening at some point. I don't want to plan an evening for you, but just like sit back and just like enjoy that entire playlist of all his stuff. It is a blast. Let's see, from the community in the Discord, they get a load of this channel. Amos Dragon covers something that we didn't mention, which is that the Judgment games are available on PC now. Judgment and Lost Judgment from the Yakuza developers. Those games are now both on Steam, which wasn't there a whole thing about that? About like the actor or the agency that was covering the actor wouldn't allow those games to be on Steam because they didn't want them to be modded and that actor to be put in like a bunch of weird compromising crap or turned into Macho Man Randy Savage or whatever the hell. Like, I feel like there was some hang up about that. Yeah, they got mad
There's a
about
lot
the
of
mods.
hang-ups about why Japanese devs don't want to put their games on PC, and a lot of it does have to do with modding.
Yeah, so I'm glad they got over that, whatever it is. All right, let's see. Coming up this week here at MinnMax, I am going to be traveling to a preview event, which is going to be a little bit different for us. And I'll be able to talk about that game, I think maybe next week. A lot of people were trying to guess like, oh, it's going to be God of War Ragnarok or something huge. It's a smaller game than that. Somewhere in the middle, but it's a game that I'm excited to learn more about and see, and it'll be cool. So I'll be traveling for that, so I'll be out of commission, but we still have stuff going up on our YouTube channel. We have the deepest dive on Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. We had the first episode go live on Tuesday evening, technically, and that covers everything in the game up until you land on Crete, but if you watch that on YouTube or you just unlock the podcast version of that in the bonus podcast feed if you're a Patreon supporter, it's just like a 2-hour in-studio discussion about Indiana Jones. And hopefully it works as if you're a big Indiana Jones fan and you don't want to play that old adventure game from 1992, which you should because it rules, it turns out. But it's just like a fun discussion about Indiana Jones and it'll sound just like a new adventure. So any feedback on that is appreciated. And you can always jump in and play the rest of Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. It's available for dirt cheap on Steam at Good Old Games. And then you can submit your comments for the second half, the grand finale, which is happening next week on Monday. So we'll be collecting your comments on Sunday over on Patreon for the second half of The Deepest Dive, everybody. Then you can also unlock in the bonus podcast feed Party Chat, our Patreon exclusive podcast, where we unpack all of the D23 announcements. We talk about X-Men and the MCU, debate how that's going to work. We talk even more about Splatoon 3 with the community and a bunch of other fun stuff. So thanks to everybody who unlocks that show each and every week. We enjoy it. Kelsey, you got something you'd like to plug?
Yeah, you can listen to my podcast, Video Game History Hour, wherever you're getting this podcast, probably. And yeah, I don't know, that's kind of all I've got going right this second.
Yeah, it's an excellent podcast. Please check it out, everybody. Sarah, what do you got going on?
I've got my podcast, which you can catch on twitch.tv/SarahPods.
Would you ever want to start your own podcast, Sarah?
I don't know what I would talk about.
You'd find something. I mean, you monologue nonstop for your Twitch streams. I mean, you could always find something to talk about.
That's the podcast.
Okay. Everyone in the Backstage Pass watching us live, they're saying Podscast. of course. It's always been right there, but yeah, it'd be interesting. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for watching or listening to this big episode. Hope you enjoyed it. You can always subscribe to the audio version on your favorite podcast app if you're just watching this on YouTube. And thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon, including everybody at the $50 tier, the Game Champion tier. They can choose any game under the sun to officially be declared the champion of, including, Sarah, you might know this person, games.archer.com has declared themselves the champion of Clocknockers. Did you play that on Steam Secret Stash?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, they're the champion of it.
It was an epic night.
That's right. Joe Dean is officially the champion of Hotel Dusk, Room 215. Is that a Kelsey game?
I haven't played it, but I own it. It's on my shelf over there.
Somewhere
it's one
over
of those infinite backlog games.
Awesome. Patrick Polk is officially the champion of Bayonetta 2. Very timely. Speaking of timely, IanTClark. I'm sorry, Kelsey. We called you the champion earlier, but it's not fair because IanTClark is the champion of Splatoon 3. Officially, the greatest that ever was. Unbelievable.
Can't argue with that.
Thanks, everybody, for jumping up to that Game Champion tier and claiming any game under the sun. Stay tuned. We have a bunch of exciting stuff coming up here at MinnMax, including, I don't want to tease it too much, but a little tease. Maybe the world would wonder what would it look like if Kelsey Lewin had a limited series show here at MinnMax. Maybe we'll find out soon. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Be good, have fun, let's go.